Chapter 294. It's the people from the land of bloody massacre. Nyetian was shocked. He did not expect the people who attacked him to be the guards of the land of bloody massacre. Could it be that the news that I have a rank 9 spiritual weapon was leaked, and these people are here to rob me? Nyetian frowned and guessed. Corpse Luo, do you know who these people are? Nyetian asked anxiously as he suddenly thought of Corpse Luo, Demon Lord. Corpse Luo, Demon Lord, shook his rat head and said, I have always been in the bloody massacre ancient tomb and have never left. How can I know these people? Nyetian's frown deepened. He always thought that the guards of the land of bloody massacre were Corpse Luo, Demon Lord's men. But now it seemed that Corpse Luo, Demon Lord did not know these people at all. Actually, it was easy to understand after thinking about it. If Corpse Luo, Demon Lord really controlled the land of bloody massacre, he did not need to set up a trap like the bloody massacre ancient tomb. He could have used the primordial spirits of the land of bloody massacre to feed his Corpse Luo demon body, or let these people help him kill people. If they are not Corpse Luo Demon Lord's men, then who are they? Nyetian was even more puzzled. At this time, the person who was obviously the leader of the guard stood out and looked at Elderly. He shook his mask and said coldly, As expected, you are a remnant of the bloody massacre palace. If I guess correctly, you are Golden Sun Protector Liang, one of the 3 protectors of the bloody massacre palace. Elderly, his name was Liang. Nyetian looked at the guard who spoke and was stunned. He could not see through this person's strength. It seemed that this guy's strength was not weaker than Elderly, at least on par, or even stronger than Elderly. Nyetian did not know what this person's position was in the land of bloody massacre. If he was just an ordinary small fry, then the strength of the land of bloody massacre was too terrifying. It was simply unimaginable. This old man is Liang. I have never forgotten the blood feud of the bloody massacre palace. Today, I will take your lives as a sacrifice to the souls of my brothers from the bloody massacre palace. Liang did not panic when his identity was exposed. Instead, he was extremely angry. For the past 20 years, he did not stop thinking about revenge. Now that he finally had the chance, of course he would not let it go. You want revenge? With just you? The man sneered, completely disregarding Elderly. He said coldly, In my eyes, you're nothing but a pile of bones. Arrogant. Oldly roared and immediately attacked. With a loud bang, his palm slammed towards the guard in front of him. Boom! Under the palm strike, a roulette-like object appeared in the air, instantly freezing the space around it. Courting death. That person smiled coldly. His body shook, and a vast pressure was released, causing the frozen space to return to its original state. So powerful. In just a single exchange, yet Tian cried out in his heart. He already knew that Oldly was definitely not a match for the person before him. Just now, Elderly had used the divine wheel space that was unique to spirit wheel practitioners, who knew that it would be easily resolved by the other party. Elderly frowned. Obviously, he was quite surprised as well. Kill them, that person shouted coldly. Immediately, he grabbed the air with one hand, and a giant white bone claw condensed in the air. It directly enveloped the space above Nyetian's head for 3 days. The surging aura caused the space to be compressed. Nyetian could not withstand the pressure. He felt a tightness in his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. The other party was too powerful. The current Nyetian was not a match for him at all. Moreover, he had just forcefully used the 3 seals of the god of war. His body was still in a weakened state. It was even more difficult for him to withstand the vast pressure. Die! That person shouted coldly. The aura of the giant white bone claw increased again. Nyetian felt that his body was bound by an invisible force, and he could not breathe. Rui Qinyu, who was in his arms, was in an even worse situation. Her pretty face was flushed red, as if blood was about to seep out. Wishful thinking. At the critical moment, Elderly roared. His body shook, and a giant circular shield was erected. It was the godly chakra space again. With Elderly as the center, a vast force rolled out, resisting the giant white bone claw in the air. At the same time, It forced the guards with the devil masks to retreat. Go! Elderly took the opportunity and waved his hand, sending Nietian and Rui Qinyu dozens of meters into the air. The proud sword wings appeared on Nietian's back. With a flap of the wings, he was 100 meters away in the blink of an eye. At this moment, he could only choose to leave. Even if he stayed, he would not be of any help to Elderly. He would even become a burden to him. Bang! With a loud explosion, the godly chakra space around Elderly was torn apart. The giant white bone claw in the air pressed down on him and swallowed him. Seeing this, the person let out a ferocious laugh. Old man, since you like to save people so much, then stay here and die. Ha ha ha. What's your name? Elder Lee's weak voice came from under the giant claw. Humph. The person laughed coldly and said arrogantly, Old man, you're still thinking of revenge when you're about to die? There's no harm in telling you. My name is Mon Ning. Unfortunately, if you want to take revenge, you can only wait for your next life. The next moment, the cold voice fell, and the giant white bone claw suddenly tightened. The person trapped in it would definitely die without a corpse. Seeing this, Nietian could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Nietian, City Lord, what are you waiting for? Let's leave quickly. However, in the next moment, he heard a familiar voice. Nietian turned around in shock and looked at Elderly, who had appeared beside him out of nowhere. His face was full of surprise. Doppelganger. However, in the next moment, Nietian immediately understood that the person who had just died was only Elder Lee's doppelganger. This cunning old fox must have cultivated a type of doppelganger martial arts technique, and it was a very high-quality doppelganger, almost no different from the real body. Otherwise, with Mon Ninger's strength, he would have been able to see through it. Bastard! At this moment, Mon Ninger also saw Elderly in the distance and immediately flew into a rage. She cursed, and her face was so gloomy that it looked like blood was dripping out of it. At this time, Nietian and the rest had already left the outer forest of the land of bloody massacre. Mon Ninger and the rest originally wanted to chase after them, but their figures stopped at the edge of the forest as if they were afraid of something and did not dare chase after them. Seeing that Mon Ninger and the rest's expressions were not right, Nietian could not help but be stunned. He thought to himself in surprise, could it be that there is some kind of restriction in their bodies that prevents them from leaving the land of bloody massacre? Nietian had heard Gui mention before that the current ruler of the land of bloody massacre was a mysterious force that even the 4 great families did not dare to offend. The strange thing was that this mysterious force had never left the land of bloody massacre. Now it seemed that it was not that they did not want to leave the land of bloody massacre, but that they could not. Mysterious force. Where did this force come from? Nietian felt that it was even more strange. He had a feeling that the mysterious force in the land of bloody massacre did not come from the 3,000 lesser worlds, but from the world above, the Sumeru world. Nietian, City Lord, let's go. Elderly was worried about Rui Qinyu's safety and said anxiously, Nietian nodded. Now is not the time to think about other things. The most important thing right now was Rui Qinyu. Chapter 295. Heavenly Luo City, Heavenly Luo Mountain, inside an enormous mine. Several hundred miners busied themselves with sweat dripping down their backs. They carried enormous rocks on their heads. Those enormous rocks were even larger than their bodies, looking to weigh at least 10,000 caddies. These miners were basically all manifestation realm martial artists. Carrying enormous rocks weighing 10,000 caddies was effortless. The surface of the enormous rocks was pitch black, but if one looked closely, there was a faint blood color within. If one removed the pitch black layer on the surface, one would discover that the enormous rocks were actually blood red in color. Several figures appeared above the mine. These figures were not unfamiliar. They were precisely Gu Yi, Ding Yifun, and the rest. Young Lord Ding, this is the first batch of dragon bloodstones that we mined. Your Daeyuan Guild's mining team is impressive indeed. In just half a month's time, they mined out the dragon bloodstones. Looks like it won't take much time to finish mining the entire dragon bloodstone mine vein. Gui's old face was smiling like a blooming chrysanthemum. Seeing the dragon bloodstones come out, He could not even close his mouth. Ding Yifan also found it hard to conceal his excitement, as he said with a smile, "Master Gu, although this first batch of dragon bloodstones was mined by the Deyuan Guild's mining team, without the protection of the Alchemist Association's Elixir Martial Forbidden Guards, the mining work would not have been so smooth. Therefore, Master Gu also claimed great credit. There seemed to be no guards around the mine vein, but there were over 100 Alchemist Association's Elixir Martial Forbidden Guards lying in ambush. If someone dared to plot against the Dragon Bloodstones, these Elixir Martial Forbidden Guards would absolutely not be merciful. The Elixir Martial Forbidden Guards were only loyal to the Alchemist Association and were equivalent to the Alchemist Association's private army. Their combat strength was terrifying, and none of the four great families dared to provoke them lightly. With the Elixir Martial Forbidden Guards guarding the mine vein, nobody dared to approach within 1,000 meters of the mine vein. Not at all, not at all. We're working together, mutually benefiting each other. Gu Yi snickered and actually started complimenting each other. At this time, Ding Yifan seemed to suddenly recall something and said, "Master Gu, this half a month, I haven't seen the Yetian City Lord. Where'd he go?" When Gu Yi heard Ding Yifan mention Yetian, a hint of worry flashed across his face before disappearing. He laughed dryly and said, "I'm not too sure either. I think he went to cultivate with one of his former teachers. But don't worry, he will definitely be back before the Dragon Blood Martial meet starts." Verbally advising Ding Yifan not to worry, but in his heart, Gu Yi was more worried than anyone else. Perhaps others did not know, but he knew that Nye Tian did not go to cultivate at all. Instead, he entered the Bloody Slaughter ancient tomb. That day, Nye Tian came to find him with the Blood Slaughter token, and then disappeared the next day. He knew that this guy must have gone to the Bloody Slaughter ancient tomb. Although Gu Yi was very confident in Nye Tian's strength, the latter was going to the ancient Bloody Tomb this time. The ancient Bloody Tomb was a forbidden area among the forbidden areas. For more than 100 years, very few people could walk out of the tomb alive, and those who did eventually died tragically. Gu Yi did not wish for such a tragedy to happen to Nye Tian. Ding Yifan was slightly taken aback. The Nye Tian City Lord has a teacher? Why haven't I heard of him before? Ahem. Gu Yi was slightly embarrassed and explained, "I heard that he was a teacher when he was in the academy. His strength is not bad, so he should be fine." Ding Yifan nodded, his expression somewhat strange. No one knew what he was thinking, but he suddenly said, "Master Gu, the matter of a Nye Tian City Lord collecting a high entrance fee and martial meet registration fee in Heaven Luo City. Do you know about it?" "I know." "Why? Is there a problem?" Gu Yi was first taken aback, and then his face became calm. The matter of Nye Tian collecting the entrance fee and registration fee, Gu Yi had long known about it. The entrance fee of a lower-grade yuan crystal and the registration fee of a high-grade yuan crystal was really a little too ruthless. Fortunately, the other martial artists all knew that Nye Tian's partners were Gu Yi and the Yuan Chamber of Commerce. Otherwise, they would not have obediently paid up. "No problem." Ding Yifan's expression slightly stiffened, and then he smiled. If one were to say that he was not envious of Nye Tian earning so much money, that would be a lie. But who asked him to say that the Dragon Blood Martial meet was to be held in Heaven Luo City? Ding Yifan even complained about this matter to Aoki Lily before, but the latter did not care in the slightest. She even told Ding Yifan to look further ahead, and told him to make sure not to offend Nye Tian. Aoki Lily's ability to read people was far above Ding Yifan's. Although she did not have much contact with Nye Tian, she had a feeling Nye Tian was unfathomable. Towards this kind of unfathomable person, Aoki Lily only had one method: to befriend, not to be enemies. Hence, seeing Nye Tian earning money so endlessly, although Ding Yifan was envious, he did not dare to show it. Gu Yi's brows were also knitted very tightly at this time, very worried for Nye Tian's safety. Furthermore, he recently heard some news about the Bloody Massacre ancient tomb. Someone already walked out of the ancient tomb, and was even infected with a very strange blood qi. Nye Tian did not return after a long time, and this made Gu even more anxious. Although Gu and Yetian were only partners, the two of them had a life-and-death friendship in the burial cloud abyss, and Gu was also a person who valued relationships. Logically, he did not want anything to happen to Yetian. Master Gu, how should we deal with this first batch of dragon bloodstones? Suddenly, Ding Yifan opened his mouth and asked. Gu was slightly stunned. His small eyes rolled around, and then he smiled and said, "Young Master Ding, I'm an alchemist, and I have some understanding of dragon bloodstones. Why don't you let me take this first batch of dragon bloodstones to study first? And when the dragon bloodstones are mine later, young Master Ding can take it. What do you think?" Master Gu this. Ding Yifan was obviously not willing, and said, "I have a presumptuous request, and I hope Master Gu can fulfill it." Oh, Gu knew that Ding Yifan would definitely not be willing. This was the first batch of dragon bloodstones. Of course, everyone would want to get their hands on it. Ding Yifan said, "There's still 1.5 months before the Dragon Blood Martial Meet starts. This junior also wants to participate in the martial meet, so using some dragon blood in advance will be of great benefit to this junior's strength. I hope Master Gu can fulfill my request." Ding Yifan was very shrewd. He kept referring to himself as a junior and raised Gu up high. "Let's see how you dare snatch the dragon bloodstones from me." About this, about that. Gu was at a loss for words and really didn't know how to reject Ding Yifan. The child was already begging you. As an old man, if he couldn't even show this bit of magnanimity, he would be too embarrassed. Just as Gu was in a dilemma, a voice suddenly sounded out. "The two of you stop fighting. This batch of dragon bloodstones is mine." Tian's figure suddenly appeared. His voice was not loud, but contained an extreme overbearingness that could not be disobeyed. "Tian, city lord." Tian. Ding Yifan and Gu cried out at the same time. Looking at Tian, who suddenly appeared, their expressions froze, and they couldn't react for a long time. Chapter 296. Tian, you're back. You came from the bloody massacre. After a while, Gu finally reacted, but he was still very surprised. He wanted to say the bloody massacre ancient tomb, but he suddenly thought of something and swallowed his words. Tian smiled faintly, walked over and said, "That's right, I just came back from the bloody massacre ancient tomb." Tian had just returned to Tianluo City. He and Rui Qinyu, under the protection of Elder Li, ran for a day and a night and finally returned to Tianluo City. Now, Rui Qinyu was in the Castellan's residence, still unconscious. Due to the pressure from Ma Ning'er's aura in the land of bloody massacre, the blood drain in Rainy Thousand Leaf's body flared up even faster. At most, it would last for another day. If she could not suppress it, her life would be in danger. Tian didn't even enter the Castellan's residence, but went to find Gu. When he found out that Gu had come to Tianluo Mountain, he immediately rushed over. He came at the right time. The first batch of dragon bloodstones had just been mined. Ding Yifan and Gu were arguing about the ownership of the first batch of dragon bloodstones, and Tian's sudden arrival saved them a lot of trouble. Tian's tone just now was not a discussion, but an order. That's right, he must get the first batch of dragon bloodstones, and he must extract the dragon blood today. Tian, city lord, you went to the bloody massacre ancient tomb? Ding Yifan was stunned when he heard the name Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb, and even forgot what Tian said just now. He never thought that Tian was not in Tianluo City during this period of time, but actually went to the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb. The most amazing thing was that Tian came back from the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb unscathed, neither crazy nor stupid. But how is this possible? Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb. Tian went to the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb. Ding Yifan didn't respond for a long time. His brain was in a mess. "Old Gu, young Master Ding, I want this batch of dragon bloodstones," Tian said as he looked at Gu and Ding Yifan. Gu saw the solemn look on Tian's face and knew that he was obviously not joking. Although he was a little reluctant in his heart, he still nodded his head firmly. Ding Yifan saw Gu nod his head, and then looked at Tian's expression and could only nod his head. "All right," Tian continued. "You too. I have something to discuss with you." Let's return to the Alchemist Guild first. Ding Yifan and Gu Yi looked at each other, not knowing what Nye Tian was planning. A moment later, the three figures appeared in the Danwu City Alchemist Guild. Brother Nye, what's the matter? Just say it. After entering the room, the few of them sat down. Gu Yi had a bad premonition in his heart, but he still chuckled and said, "Yes." Nye Tian nodded and went straight to the point. "I want all the dragon bloodstones in your hands." All the dragon bloodstones. When Ding Yifan heard that, he stood up abruptly and looked at Nye Tian with an astonished face. If not for the latter's stern expression, he would definitely think that this was a joke. Gu Yi was also petrified, unable to say a word for a long time. Nye Tian was too much. Putting aside the fact that he just asked for the first batch of dragon bloodstones, now he actually wanted all the dragon bloodstones in Gu Yi's and a Yuan Trade Association's hands. Wasn't this robbery? Furthermore, he used a single sentence to rob, and robbing so justifiably and openly. No one would be able to accept such a thing. Nye Tian had long expected such a reaction from the two, and continued, "I won't ask for your dragon bloodstones for nothing. I'm willing to use other things to exchange." The dragon bloodstones were obviously for Rui Qinyu. The blood-devouring force in Rui Qinyu's body was too strong. Currently, only dragon blood could suppress it. Although Nye Tian already had 10% of the dragon bloodstones, it was far from enough. So he wanted more. "No way. You can't use anything to exchange." Ding Yifan didn't listen to Nye Tian at all and directly refused. Gu Yi's brows were also tightly furrowed as he said with a troubled expression, "Brother Nye, I don't know why you want so many dragon bloodstones, but for you to ask our two families to give up all of our dragon bloodstones, isn't this a little dragon bloodstone, a rare treasure in the world? Not only could it increase a martial artist's cultivation speed, it could also directly strengthen the martial body. This kind of thing was rare in the world. Could Nye Tian take out anything better than the dragon bloodstones?" Ding Yifan didn't believe it. Gu Yi didn't believe it either. "Can I use anything?" Nye Tian directly interrupted Gu Yi's words, looked at Ding Yifan, and said indifferently, "What if I use the Heaven Tier martial technique to exchange for the dragon bloodstones?" Heaven Tier martial technique. Hearing these four words, Ding Yifan's expression immediately froze. Although Nye Tian's voice wasn't loud, but he felt as if his ears were ringing with thunder, causing him to be dumbfounded. "My dear father and mother, Heaven Tier martial technique." Ding Yifan screamed in his heart, and he was about to go crazy. Heaven Tier martial technique. In the entire 3,000 small worlds, only the four great families possessed it. No matter how strong the dragon bloodstone was, it could only increase Ding Yifan's personal strength. However, if he possessed a Heaven Tier martial technique, it would undoubtedly be an opportunity for the entire Yuan Trade Association to become stronger. Even after a few decades or 100 years, the Yuan Trade Association could rely on this Heaven Tier martial technique to become a force that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the four great families. At this moment, Ding Yifan was moved, completely moved. "Pa! Pa!" At this moment, Nye Tian directly threw the two martial techniques on the table and said indifferently, "I brought these two martial techniques out from the ancient Bloody Tomb. Young Master Ding, you can judge the grade yourself, or you can ask someone from the Lin family to come and test it." When Ding Yifan saw the martial techniques on the table, his eyes turned red, completely red. The legendary Heaven Tier martial technique was actually in front of him, and there were two of them. Gulp, gulp. Ding Yifan immediately lost his composure and swallowed his saliva madly. Gu Yi could still be considered calm at this moment. After his old face stiffened for a long time, he immediately used his divine sense to sense the two martial techniques, and then exclaimed, "Damn, it really is a Heaven Tier martial technique." Ding Yifan's eyeballs opened wide, and if his eyes were a little bigger, they would pop out. He took a few deep breaths, and then said with a trembling voice, "Nye Tian City Lord, are you really willing to exchange a Heaven Tier martial technique for the Dragon Bloodstone?" With great difficulty, Ding Yifan voiced out his doubts. "Yes." Nietian nodded indifferently and said, 1 martial technique for 10% of the dragon bloodstone in your hands, 2 martial techniques for 20%. As soon as Nietian said this, Ding Yifan was completely dumbfounded. He felt his whole body was floating, as if he was dreaming. He had never thought that Nietian would actually exchange 2 heaven-tier martial techniques for his dragon bloodstone. From Ding Yifan's point of view, 1 heaven-tier martial technique for all the dragon bloodstones was worth it. Two martial techniques? Gu Yi was also dizzy, and his teeth started to chatter. He had originally thought that he and Ding Yifan would each have 1 heaven-tier martial technique. Nietian glanced at Gu Yi and then took out 2 more martial techniques and said indifferently, Old Gu, this is a 9th-tier elixir formula and a heaven-tier fire manipulation art, in exchange for the dragon bloodstone in your hands. Damn. Gu Yi's whole body shook, as if he had been electrocuted, and sat on the ground with a plop. Chapter 297. In the room of the Alchemist Guild, Gu Yi and Ding Yifan's faces were stiff, their eyes glazed, completely shocked by Nietian's actions. Heaven-ranked martial technique. Heaven-ranked fire manipulation art. 9th-tier pill formula. These priceless treasures that only existed in legends were like cabbages in Nietian's hands. He threw them as he pleased, and even threw out 4 of them at once. Ding Yifan and Gu Yi's little hearts could not take it anymore. They felt as if there were a million little bunnies banging around in their hearts, about to burst. Nietian could not wait any longer, and said, Looking at your reactions, I'll take it as a yes. Finally, Ding Yifan and Gu Yi reacted. Their heads nodded like a rattle drum, and they said, yes. The 2 of them did not know how many times they said yes, as if they had eaten something and could not stop at all. 2 heaven-ranked martial techniques. Even if Ding Yifan used his toes to think, there was no reason for him to reject. With these 2 heaven-ranked martial techniques, the Diyuan Chamber of Commerce would definitely stand out from the 7 top Chamber of Commerce of the Martial Gathering Merchant Union, and in a few decades, it could even grow into a superpower that was not weaker than the 4 great clans. As for Gu Yi, he was an alchemist, so the heaven-ranked fire manipulation art was more attractive to him than the heaven-ranked martial technique. There was also a 9th-tier pill formula, which definitely contained an unparalleled existence of the true meaning of the pill Tao. As long as he could comprehend the true meaning of the pill Tao in the pill formula, his attainments in the pill Tao would soar to the heavens, and it would only be a matter of time. After a long time, Gu Yi and Ding Yifan finally calmed down. The 2 of them carefully kept the fire manipulation art and pill formula, and held them in their arms, as if they were hugging a baby that had only been passed down for 10 generations. At this time, Gu Yi suddenly thought of something and asked, Brother Nya, these martial techniques and pill formulas were brought out from the Bloody Slaughter ancient tomb, right? Yes. Nietian nodded, and did not hide anything, and said, The martial techniques, fire manipulation art, and pill formulas were all obtained from the Bloody Slaughter ancient tomb, but not many people know about this. I hope the 2 of you can keep it a secret for me. Of course. Gu Yi swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Licking his lips that were already dry to the point of cracking, he said, Brother Nya, don't worry. No matter who dares to harm you, Big Brother will definitely stand by your side and do everything in my power to protect your safety. Gu Yi did not know exactly how many martial arts and pill formulas Nietian had obtained, so of course he had to show his loyalty. Perhaps he might even be able to obtain some benefits. Gu Yi did not know how many techniques and pill formulas, and so he had to express his loyalty, and he might get some benefits. Indeed, aside from the 20 heaven-ranked martial incantations, 3 heaven-ranked flame controlling incantations, and 15 9th-grade pill formulas, Nietian had also obtained 5 9th-grade spiritual tools. If this news were to be leaked, it was likely that everyone would look at Nietian with red eyes, and they would definitely be red eyes. Even the foundation of the 4 great clans could not compare to Nietian's current net worth. However, Nietian was not afraid. There were not many people who knew about this. Even if Mr. Purple or Dongfang Du and Chu Shifeng leaked it, not many people would believe it. And even if someone believed it, they might not dare to snatch it. Tian not only had Gu Yi by his side, but he also had a trump card that he had not used. If he was forced into a corner, he could just find Tang Hao at Sumi Ling, the leader of the 4 great clans, which force in the 3,000 lesser worlds could afford to offend the Tang clan. Suddenly thinking of Dongfang Du and Chu Shifeng, Tian's lips curled into a strange smile. He did not know if those two were still alive. Tian, City Lord, if you need anything, just let me know. As long as it is within the Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce's capabilities, we will not hesitate to help. Ding Yifan stepped forward and said excitedly. At this moment, he suddenly understood why Aoki Eureka said that Tian could only be befriended and not made an enemy of. There was actually someone who could walk out of the bloody massacre ancient tomb unscathed, and he even brought out so many heaven-ranked martial techniques, Tier 9 pill formulas, and other priceless treasures. If not for Tian saying it himself, coupled with Ding Yifan's previous understanding of Tian, he would not have believed such a thing even if he was beaten to death. All right, Tian nodded and looked at the two of them. Don't forget what you said today. I will definitely need your help in the future. Of course, the two of them said at the same time. Actually, Tian could have used a martial technique and a fire manipulation art to exchange the dragon bloodstones in Ding Yifan and Gu Yi's hands. However, he had taken out an even higher temptation to rope them in. In the future, Heaven Luo City was destined to not be peaceful. With Gu Yi and the Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce watching over it, the other powers would definitely hold back and not dare to act too brazenly against Heaven Luo City. Yeah, brother, yeah. Suddenly, Gu Yi seemed to have sensed something amiss. He looked at Tian in astonishment, as though he had seen a ghost, and said in a trembling voice, Your strength has already reached the 9th tier of the Wanxiang realm? That's right. When Gu Yi's divine sense had unintentionally swept across Tian, he was shocked to discover that Tian's strength had already reached the 9th tier of the Wanxiang realm. Oh my god, how is this possible? Gu Yi and Ding Yifan both exclaimed in their hearts. Gu Yi clearly remembered that when Tian had left, he had clearly only possessed the strength of the 3rd tier of the Wanxiang realm. It had only been 20 days, but he had actually directly advanced to the 9th tier of the Wanxiang realm. This cultivation speed was enough to make one's jaw drop. Ding Yifan was even more shocked to the point of speechlessness. He remembered the first time he had met Tian. He had only possessed the strength of the 1st tier of the Wanxiang realm. It had only been a short month, but he had actually reached the 9th tier of the Wanxiang realm. This cultivation speed would definitely make all geniuses wish that they could crawl into a rat's hole. Ding Yifan considered himself a genius martial artist as well. However, he didn't even have the courage to say this little bit of pride in front of Tian. If Tian were to be described as a genius, then Ding Yifan could only be called a dreg. He couldn't even be considered mediocre. Tian, however, had a calm expression on his face as he said, I had some fortuitous encounters in the ancient bloody tomb, so my strength improved slightly faster. There's nothing strange about this. The reason why Tian's strength had improved so quickly was firstly because of the 8th tier medicinal herb, the heavenly icy fragrance fruit, and secondly because of his soul gathering blood pool and the 10,000 times gravity formation. However, even without these fortuitous encounters, Tian's current strength was at least at the 5th tier of the Wanxiang realm. He had the primal chaos original coffin, so his cultivation speed was already 10 times faster than others. Coupled with his innate talent, who could compare to him? Gu Yi and Ding Yifan were so shocked that they stared at each other. Their expressions seemed to be saying, Boss, this speed of yours is called a little faster. It's clearly 1,000,000 times faster. In their eyes, Tian was definitely a peerless monster, a monster that no one could compare to. Chapter 298. In fact, Gu Yi and Ding Yifan had not truly realized how terrifying Tian was. After his trip to the ancient bloody tomb, Tian had not only risen to the 9th level of the Wanxiang realm, but he had also successfully cultivated the sword heart, dual sword heart, proud sword heart, and star soul sword heart. From condensing sword chi to cultivating the sword heart, Nietian had only used less than 3 months. For an ordinary swordsman, this process would take 10 or even dozens of years. Even a talented swordsman would need several years to achieve this. In his previous life, Nietian was one of the top 5 sword Daos in the Heaven Realm. His talent in the sword Dao was his most terrifying talent. Nietian ignored Gu Yi and Ding Yifun's astonishment and said, "Old Gu, I have something to trouble you with. Brother Nia, please speak. Don't stand on ceremony with me." Gu Yi chuckled and agreed without hesitation. Nietian said, "I want to ask Old Gu to gather all the alchemists in the Alchemist Guild who are at the 3rd grade and above. We will go to the Heaven Luo Mountain now and extract the dragon blood from the first batch of dragon bloodstones." Now, Gu Yi was stunned. "Yes." Nietian nodded heavily, his expression solemn as he said, "And before tonight, I must see pure dragon blood." Rui Qinyu's life was in danger. Without the dragon blood to suppress the power of the blood devourer, she would definitely not live until tomorrow morning. "All right, I will immediately gather all the 3rd-rank pill refiners and do my best." Gu Yi felt Nietian's determination and immediately turned to leave to gather the pill refiners. "Old Gu!" Nietian suddenly pulled Gu Yi back, a domineering look in his eyes as he said solemnly, "This matter concerns life and death. It's not about doing your best, but you must do it." The dragon blood concerned Rui Qinyu's life and death. Nietian must obtain pure dragon blood before tonight. Gu Yi felt the domineering look in Nietian's eyes and couldn't help but tremble. He immediately said, "I will do it." Seeing Gu Yi walk out of the room, Nietian felt much more at ease. Even though Old Man Gu was usually a little unreliable, he was a genuine level 6 apothecary after all. Furthermore, he was the red-robed elder of the Apothecary Guild. Leaving this matter to him would definitely not be a problem. "Nietian City Lord, if there's anything you need the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce to help with, feel free to let us know." After Gu Yi left, Ding Yifan immediately stepped forward and said earnestly. After truly realizing how terrifying Nietian was, Ding Yifan could not wait to form a relationship with him. Although the two of them were now partners, it was only an exchange of benefits. In some cases, a relationship based on benefits was very unreliable. As a member of the Chamber of Commerce, Ding Yifan knew this better than the average person. If he could form a relationship with Nietian, then this relationship would be much closer than a relationship of interest. Nietian thought for a while and asked, "Young Master Ding, how long will it take to fully mine the Dragon Bloodstone in Tian Luo Mountain?" Ding Yifan could see that Nietian seemed to be very anxious and wanted to get the Dragon Bloodstone immediately. He estimated in his heart and gave a slightly conservative answer. "If everything goes smoothly, it will take another month." "1 month," Nietian muttered with a worried expression. He had already asked Lord Corpse Luo. The blood-devouring power in Rui Qinyu's body was very violent. Although dragon blood could restrain it, the dragon blood extracted from the Dragon Bloodstone was after all something tens of thousands of years old, or even hundreds of thousands of years old. The difference between the dragon energy in it and fresh dragon blood was like heaven and earth. Therefore, 10 drops of dragon blood could only guarantee Rui Qinyu's life for a day. Nietian estimated that if the entire Dragon Bloodstone mine was fully mined, the dragon blood that could be extracted would at most be 1,000 drops. 1,000 drops of dragon blood could only extend Rui Qinyu's life by 100 days. And this was under the condition that Nietian had obtained all the Dragon Bloodstones. Although Nietian had obtained the Dragon Bloodstone from Gu Yi and Ding Yifan, he only had half, which was 500 drops. As for the other half, it would be at the Dragon Blood Martial Meet. In this way, even if Nietian did not want to participate in the Dragon Blood Martial Meet, he had no choice. In order to extend Rui Qinyu's life, he had to participate in the Dragon Blood Martial Meet, and he had to become the champion. Although Nietian could tamper with the Dragon Bloodstone, Since outsiders did not know how much dragon bloodstone had been mined, he could only take out 20% or even 10% as the reward for the dragon blood marshal meat. Gu, Yi, and Ding Yifan would not object, but doing so would be breaking his promise. Breaking his promise. Nie Tian would not do such a thing, nor would he bother to do it. If he wanted to obtain the dragon bloodstone, he would use his own methods, such as participating in the dragon blood marshal meet and becoming the champion. Young Master Ding. Nie Tian thought for a moment, then said, "Half a month? I'll give you half a month's time. Can you finish mining all the dragon bloodstone load?" "Half a month." Ding Yifan muttered to himself for a moment, then said, "If I increase the number of miners and mine day and night, I can mine it out. Nie Tian, City Lord, please rest assured, I will definitely do my best." The corner of Nie Tian's mouth curled up, and he said again, "Not do your best, but definitely do it." After the dragon bloodstone was mined, he still had to refine the dragon blood. This process was very complicated. If it was just Nie Tian refining the dragon blood alone, who knew how long it would take? And it was impossible for him to use all the alchemists to refine the dragon blood every day, so the dragon bloodstone had to be mined as soon as possible. Furthermore, Nie Tian had an idea in his mind, and that was to bring forward the time of the dragon blood marshal meet. Nie Tian had asked Gao Han before, and the dragon blood marshal meet already had over 100,000 people. 100,000 people, this number was too huge. If he really wanted the martial artists to fight one by one, then the results of the martial meet would have to wait until next year. Therefore, not only did Nie Tian want to bring forward the time of the martial meet, he also wanted to change the rules of the martial meet. At the very least, there had to be a preliminary round, and a large portion of the people would be eliminated first. Otherwise, there would be no time to fight one by one. Rui Qinyu's illness could not be delayed. Right now, everyone had to give way. All right. Ding Yifan saw the determination in Nie Tian's eyes and immediately nodded his head heavily. Subconsciously, Ding Yifan felt that if he worked for Nie Tian, he would definitely receive benefits that exceeded his expectations, such as the 2 heaven-ranked martial techniques. Nie Tian nodded his head and continued, "There's one more thing. I need the Great Yuan Association to help spread the news that the Dragon Blood Martial meet has been brought forward, and it will officially begin in 10 days. All right, I will listen to Nie Tian, City Lord." Ding Yifan was startled at first, but he did not hesitate and immediately nodded his head in agreement. 10 days, when Nie Tian set this time, he naturally had his own considerations. The Dragon Bloodstone would be completely mined in half a month, and the Dragon Blood Martial meet would probably take 10 days to half a month to end. By the time the martial meet ended, the Dragon Bloodstone would have more or less been mined and settled down. Furthermore, 10 days was the time that Nie Tian had set for himself. He wanted to advance to the giant spirit realm within 10 days. Chapter 299. After leaving the Alchemist Guild, Nie Tian immediately returned to Heaven Luo City's City Lord's Mansion. He left in a hurry and asked Elder Li to bring Rui Qianyu into the City Lord's Mansion. He didn't even go in himself and went straight to find Gu Yi. "Master, you are really amazing. This lord is impressed." Walking on the street, Corpse Lord Corpse Luo suddenly said from within the primal chaos original coffin. Nie Tian's swift and decisive actions had been witnessed by the corpse demon monarch. Nie Tian was only the lord of a third-rate empire, and his cultivation base was only at the manifestation realm. Yet, he was able to make a 6th-grade alchemist and a giant spirit realm young genius act so obediently in front of him. His boldness and courage alone were enough to shock people. Corpse Demon Lord finally understood why Nie Tian could become the #1 war god in the heaven realm. Other than his unfathomable strength, his personal charm was also a factor. "Yo," Nie Tian smiled speechlessly and teased. "Even a demon lord of the demon realm has learned how to flatter." "Master, what are you saying?" "I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. There's no falsehood, no falsehood." Corpse Demon King's 2 beady eyes rolled around as he chuckled. In just a few days, Corpse Demon Lord had already gotten used to his new identity. He also had a strange feeling that the former #1 war god in the heaven realm might not be as scary as he thought. Corpse Demon Lord vaguely felt that one day, Nyetian might really remove the soul blood contract on him. Although it was just an illusory thought, at least there was hope. Hence, Corpse Demon Lord's life was quite fulfilling. Moreover, the Chaos Original Coffin was also very lively. With Brother Gio teasing him every day, Corpse Demon Lord wouldn't be too lonely. Nyetian naturally knew what Corpse Demon Lord was thinking and said directly, "Corpse Demon Lord, you don't have to flatter me. I can tell you clearly that your soul blood contract can be removed, but it must be when I think the time is right. As for when the time is right, it depends on your performance." "Master, are you serious?" Corpse Demon Lord immediately became excited when he heard Nyetian's words. "Of course." Nyetan faintly smiled and said, "You know my identity, so you must know that I never go back on my words." "All right, it's a deal." Corpse Luo Devil Monarch was abnormally excited, his long rat tail swinging a few circles in the air. It seemed like he was adapting to the spirit-devouring rat's body very quickly. Nyetian wasn't just making an empty promise to the Corpse Demon Lord. If the time was right, he was very willing to remove the soul blood contract. However, the prerequisite for breaking the blood contract was that the Corpse Demon Lord would not threaten the lives of other martial artists. If Nyetian released Corpse Demon Lord, the latter would continue to cultivate the Corpse Curse Guart and continue to devour other martial artists' primordial spirits. Wouldn't Nyetian be releasing a demon? Even if Corpse Luo Demon Monarch did not kill Nyetian, he would still feel uneasy. In fact, Nyetian could already tell that although the Corpse Demon Monarch had killed many people, he was not so evil that he could not be saved. Even if Corpse Demon Lord was a demon, Nyetian didn't think he was unforgivable. Be it the demon race or the human race, there were good and bad people. The demon race had kind-hearted people, while the human race had cruel and merciless people. So a person's good or bad had nothing to do with their background, only the person. Soon, Nyetian returned to the City Lord's mansion. "Big brother Nyetian, you're finally back. Ro air missed you so much." Far away, Neuro was already waiting for Nyetian at the gate. Old Li and Rui Qinyu had returned to the City Lord's mansion, so Nyetian must have also returned, just that he didn't enter the mansion. Qiushan, Jean DeBeo, and the others were also there, and they were all very excited. They did not know until now that Nyetian did not follow Rui Qinyu to train at all. The two of them went to the infamous Blood Slaughter ancient tomb. Nyetian pinched Nyeuro's pink little face and said with a smile, "Ninth sister, you grew fatter again, huh? How can that be? Big brother Nyetian is talking nonsense." Nyeuro's little face was flushed red, looking unspeakably obedient and adorable. Ninth sister, your strength advanced, reaching second-level origin spirit." Nyetian swept his divine sense over Nyeuro's body and said in pleasant surprise. He left for less than 20 days. For Nyeuro's strength to be able to advance by a level was already pretty good. "Yeah." Nyeuro nodded her head delightedly. Raising her tender face, she said with a proud look, "Even Uncle Qiushan said that my talent is amazing." Very amazing indeed." Nyetian nodded and knocked Nyeuro's little forehead. "Be boss." At this time, Jean DeBeo walked over, a pair of eyes wide and round as he said in astonishment, "Why your strength?" Jean DeBeo's mouth opened wide, but he was shocked until he could not speak. He sensed that Nyetian's strength actually advanced to the horrifying 9th-level manifestation realm. My God, just how long had it been? Did Nyetian drink dragon blood or eat phoenix gall? How did his strength advance so quickly? Simply unimaginable, making one's hair stand on end. Nyetian shook his head slightly, indicating for Jean DeBeo not to make a big fuss over nothing. Although his strength increased quite a bit, he still had to keep a low profile. Keeping a low profile was the way of the king. Qiushan also saw through that Nyetian's strength broke through to 9th-level manifestation realm. His expression turned stiff for quite a while before he reacted after a long time. Actually, Jean DeBeo's strength also increased by 2 levels, already reaching 7th-level origin spirit. But compared to Nyetian, that was far inferior. Yifeng, your mental strength increased? At this time, Tian suddenly noticed that Zhang Yifeng's mental strength increased, increasing to a level that he could not perceive. For a martial artist to want to perceive another martial artist's mental strength, the former's mental strength must be 10 levels higher than the latter's mental strength. After Tian's strength increased to 9th level manifestation realm, the power of 320,000 stars awakened in his body. His mental strength also increased from the original level 43 to level 45. Not only could the power of stars increase Tian's absolute strength, it could also increase his mental strength at the same time. From 3rd level manifestation realm to 9th level manifestation realm, for mental strength to be able to increase by 2 levels was already very freakish. Tian remembered that Zhang Yifeng's mental strength was level 32 previously. Now, he was actually unable to perceive the latter's mental strength. This undoubtedly indicated that the latter's mental strength had increased to level 35 and above. Zhang Yifeng nodded his head, unable to conceal the agitation in his heart as he said, "Teacher, this disciple comprehended the alchemy Tao true intent inside the purple sun pill cauldron. My mental strength advanced by leaps and bounds. Presently, it's already level 39. The purple sun pill cauldron was the tier 5 pill cauldron that Tian won at the auction. Furthermore, it was a pill cauldron that he personally refined and used before. The alchemy Tao true intent inside the pill cauldron was also left behind by Tian. It was just that he did not expect that Zhang Yifeng could actually comprehend the alchemy Tao true intent inside in such a short time. It was truly unexpected. Chapter 300. Not bad. Tian looked at Zhang Yifeng and smiled, very much like a master. Tian was happy that Zhang Yifeng's alchemy skills could improve so quickly. At least he didn't buy the purple sun cauldron for nothing. The true meaning of alchemy in the cauldron could only help alchemists like Zhang Yifeng who didn't have high mental strength. If it was Tian who absorbed the true meaning, it would be good if his mental strength increased by 1 level. Mental strength training was similar to martial arts training. The higher the level, the harder it was. For someone like Gu Yi who had a mental strength over level 60, the true meaning of alchemy in the cauldron had no effect on him. Big brother Tian. Qiu Ling'er greeted Tian. Tian smiled in response. Then he noticed Tang Yuyu, who was beside Qiu Ling'er. Tang Yuyu pouted, unhappy and sad. Tian joked, "Tang Yuyu, you don't seem happy that I'm back." Tang Yuyu pursed his lips and said, "Tian, Tang 13 hasn't come to find me." Tian was stunned for a moment. He had forgotten about this. It had been almost 2 months since Tang 13 left Lanyun City's black market. It was strange that Tang 13 hadn't come to find Tang Yuyu. Tian remembered that before Tang 13 left, he said he was going to Fengqin Empire and would be back within a month. Even if Tang 13 returned after a month, if he couldn't find Tian, he would find Jin Mingxin and the latter would tell him everything. From Lanyun City to Tianluo City, it would take at most 10 days. But Tang 13 hadn't appeared. This was strange. Tian, do you think something happened to Tang 13? Tang Yuyu frowned, his delicate face unable to hide his worry. No. Tian smiled and comforted. He must have been delayed by something. That's why he hasn't come to find you. Delayed? Tang Yuyu looked unhappy and said, "Is there anything more important than me?" Tian was speechless. Although this girl had lost her memory and wasn't very smart in some aspects, she was very clear about Tang 13's situation. Don't worry. Wait patiently for another month. If Tang 13 doesn't show up within a month, I will help you find him. To reassure Tang Yuyu, Tian promised. Truth be told, Tian was curious as well. Where did Tang 13 go? Tang Yuyu was right. In Tang 13's eyes, nothing was more important than her. Tian was just curious. He wasn't worried about Tang 13's safety. This guy's strength was not weak, and he was extremely shrewd. He also had the terrifying ghost eye, so there was no need to worry about him at all. 1 month later, the Dragon Blood Martial meet was basically over. If Tang 13 didn't show up by then, Nie Tian would personally go to the Fengqin Empire. Okay, that's all I can do. Tang Yu nodded helplessly. There was an indescribable cuteness to her. Nie Tian entered the Castellan's palace and first went to check on Rui Qinyu. The latter's condition was still not good. She was still unconscious. If she couldn't get the dragon blood tonight, her life would be in danger. Elderly stayed by Rui Qinyu's side. The three lay brothers also came back to guard with Elderly. Nie Tian still didn't know Rui Qinyu's real identity. He only heard from the guards at the land of Bloody Massacre that Elderly was a remnant of the Bloody Massacre Palace. Elderly's name was Li Yang. He was one of the three guardians of the Bloody Massacre Palace, Guardian Jin Yang. Nie Tian had heard Gu Yi mention the Bloody Massacre Palace before. 20 years ago, the land of Bloody Massacre was ruled by the Bloody Massacre Palace. One day, a mysterious force appeared, and the Bloody Massacre Palace was destroyed in one night. Judging from Elder Li's identity, Rui Qinyu should be from the Bloody Massacre Palace and had a very high status. Otherwise, Elder Li wouldn't be so respectful to her. So Rui Qinyu is from the Bloody Massacre Palace. No wonder the way she looked at the Bloody Massacre Palace guards that day was strange. Nie Tian suddenly remembered the time in the Bloody Massacre Valley. Rui Qinyu looked at the Bloody Massacre Palace guards with deep hatred. At that time, Nie Tian guessed that Rui Qinyu had a grudge against the guards of the land of Bloody Massacre. He was right. I must find a time to find out Rui Qinyu's identity, Nie Tian said in his heart. Then, Nie Tian came to the Castellan's palace lobby. Nie Tian sat in the main seat of the lobby. His gaze swept across the people around him, as if he wanted to say something but was hesitant. Boss, what do you want to say? Just say it. Jean de Bayo could tell what Nie Tian wanted to say, so he said casually. Nie Tian nodded and said, Actually, I didn't go with Rui Qinyu to train. We went to the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb. Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb. Jean de Bayo, Qiu Shan, and Zhang Yifeng exclaimed at the same time. Out of everyone present, only the three of them knew what the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb was. Nie Yuro, Tang Yuyu, Qiu Ling, and the others had no idea what the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb meant. Nie Tian waved his hand, indicating that the three of them should not make a fuss. Moreover, he had returned safely, so there was no need to be shocked. Brother Nie Tian, what kind of place is the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb? Is it dangerous? Although Nie Yuro was young, she was very quick-witted. She could tell that the three of them were shocked, so she tilted her head and asked with a frown. Nie Tian smiled faintly and said, It was a little dangerous, but I've already come out, so everything is fine. A little dangerous? Jean de Bayo, Qiu Shan, and Zhang Yifeng were shocked. Nie Yuro and the others did not know, but they knew very well that the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb was a genius graveyard. It was not called a little dangerous, but 10,000 dangerous. At this time, the three of them finally came to their senses. No wonder Nie Tian's strength had increased so much. He actually went to the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb and returned safely. This was really shocking. Nie Tian did not care about anything else. He took out a dozen or so martial techniques and said, These are the heaven-ranked martial techniques I brought out from the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb. Heaven-ranked martial techniques. Jean de Bayo and the others were dumbfounded again, although they did not know what happened when Nie Tian entered the Bloody Massacre Ancient Tomb. To be able to come out safely with so many heaven-ranked martial techniques, it was hard to imagine how dangerous this trip was. Qiu Shan and the others were very clear about what heaven-ranked martial techniques meant in the 3,000 small worlds. A yellow-ranked martial technique was enough for a clan to establish a foothold in a small city of a third-rate empire. A profound ranked martial technique was enough to establish a large clan. An earth-ranked martial technique could only be obtained by a large sect. As for heaven-ranked martial techniques, only the 4 great clans had them. It was not an exaggeration to say that a heaven-ranked martial technique was enough for an ordinary clan to rise rapidly and become a peak power in the 3,000 small worlds. Chapter 301. Nie Tian saw how shocked Qiu Shan and the others were. but he did not think much of it. Sky-tier martial techniques were precious, but in Nie Tian's hands, there was no use for them other than giving them away. He cultivated the 9 Extremes War God Art, a super sky-tier martial technique. He cultivated the Proud Sword Art, also a super sky-tier martial technique. He cultivated the 9 Heavens Flame Art, a high-grade sky-tier martial technique. Therefore, Nie Tian would not cultivate these sky-tier martial techniques. Most martial techniques had different attributes. If one cultivated several martial techniques at the same time, not only would it not be beneficial to one's strength, but it would also cause the attribute of one's origin energy to become chaotic, resulting in unpredictable consequences. Therefore, in his previous life, Nie Tian only cultivated the 9 Extremes War God Art, the Proud Sword Art, and the 9 Heavens Flame Art. He would only consider cultivating them if he encountered other martial techniques that were even more terrifying than these 3. Nie Tian sensed the martial techniques in his hands one by one and handed one to Qiu Ling. This is the 7 Revolution Spiritual Heart Art. It's very suitable for you. Qiu Ling was stunned and could not react for a long time. She did not expect Nie Tian to give her a sky-tier martial technique just like that. She could only say that happiness came too suddenly, and she could not react in time. What? You don't want it? Nie Tian teased when he saw Qiu Ling's stunned expression. Jean de Bao tugged at Qiu Ling, and she finally reacted. She happily accepted the 7 Revolution Spiritual Heart Art and said happily, "Thank you, big brother Nie Tian." Nie Tian nodded with a smile. Jean de Bao chuckled and stepped forward. "Boss, what about mine?" "Of course." Nie Tian picked up a martial incantation and handed it to Jean de Bao. This is the Devil Heaven's 9 Changes incantation. It contains a grand spell formation called the Devil Heaven's 9 Changes formation. If you combine it with your 3,000 seals, I'm sure you'll be able to unleash even greater power. "Thank you, boss." Jean de Bao accepted the martial technique and chuckled. Shortly after, Nie Tian's gaze landed on Zhang Yifeng. He handed him a martial manual and said, "Yifeng, this is the Soaring Rainbow Royal Manual. Take it. Although you're an alchemist, you should at least have the ability to protect yourself. There's no harm in being strong." "Thank you, teacher." Zhang Yifeng was moved to tears as he received the manual with both hands. "Nie Tian, I won't be missing this time, right?" Suddenly, Tang Yuyu became anxious. He stepped forward and said, "Last time, you said you would give Tang 13 to me. In the end, he did not come. This time, I also want a martial art manual." Nie Tian was speechless. This girl had lost her memory, but she remembered everything that had happened recently very clearly. Previously, Nie Tian had given Nie Yuro the green shield and spiked armor and Xiu Linger the spiritual array robe. After that, Tang Yuyu had nothing. Who would have thought that this lass would remember it for so long? Looking at her attitude, it seemed like she would remember it for the rest of her life. As expected, people with amnesia couldn't afford to be hurt. Nie Tian sensed Tang Yuyu's strength and asked in surprise, "You're about to ascend to the giant spirit realm?" "Yes." Tang Yuyu nodded proudly. Then, she thought of something and hurriedly said, "Even if I'm about to ascend to the giant spirit realm, you can't just say that I'm strong and have the ability to protect myself and then not give me anything." Nie Tian was completely speechless. Right now, Tang Yuyu was not on the same wavelength as the cold-faced killer. One could only say that this amnesia really helped Tang 13 a lot. Even if Tang 13 really liked Tang Yuyu, it wouldn't be comfortable to face a killer that didn't speak all day. The current Tang Yuyu was more likable, unruly, domineering, and powerful. Nie Tian had already prepared Tang Yuyu's martial arts manuals. He handed her 2 scrolls and said, "One is the Purple Rain Forbidden Spell, and the other is the 7-Kill Ghost Blade spell. One is for you, and the other is for Tang 13. Why didn't he come to me when you gave me Tang 13's? Tang Yu pouted but still took the 2 scrolls. Her delicate face couldn't hide the excitement. Tang Yuyu's talent was very high. It wasn't below Rui Qinyu. Rui Chinyu was at the first level of the true energy realm, but she was already 20 years old. Tang Yu, who was at the 9th level of the Wanxiang realm, was only 14 years old. Now that Tang Yu had obtained the Purple Rain Forbidden spell, his cultivation speed would definitely skyrocket. After Tang Yu received the martial arts manuals, Nie Tian put away all the martial arts manuals. Nie Yuro had the Light Wind Spirit Moon spell, and Xiushan had the Wild World Defying Blade spell. The two didn't need other martial arts manuals. Xiushan, why don't I see Ao Fu? Nie Tian realized that Tong Fu wasn't here. Even Adele wasn't here. Originally, Nie Tian had already chosen a martial arts manual for Tong Fu, but the latter wasn't here. Xiushan bowed and said, "Sir, Lord Tong Fu is in seclusion." Lady Adele went back to the Alchemist Guild with him. Seclusion? Nie Tian was slightly taken aback. He immediately thought of something and said in surprise, "Could it be that he's going to break through to the true energy realm?" Tong Fu was at the 9th level of the giant spirit realm. To be in seclusion at this time, he must be trying to break through to the true energy realm. Xiushan nodded and said, "Lord Tong Fu is very strong. Grandmaster Gu wants him to participate in the Dragon Blood Martial Meet." Nie Tian was taken aback again. He thought to himself, Tong Fu is already close to 100 years old. The Dragon Blood Martial Meet only allows young martial artists below the age of 30 to sign up. However, the lifespan of the dwarf race is much longer than that of the human race. Using the age of the human race as a measure, Tong Fu has just reached adulthood, at most 20 years old. He can also participate in the Dragon Blood Martial Meet. Thinking of this, Nie Tian felt much more at ease. Actually, Tong Fu's age was probably only known by Nie Tian and Gu Yi. It was impossible for others to know. Letting Tong Fu participate in the Dragon Blood Martial Meet seemed like bullying, but it wasn't too much. City Lord. Just at this time, a servant ran over from outside the hall and shouted, "Grandmaster Gu is here." Just as the servant's voice fell, Gu Yi's hearty laughter rang out. "Brother Nye, this is the first time I've come to your City Lord's mansion." The servants of the City Lord's mansion knew Gu Yi's identity, so how would they dare to stop him? Nie Tian saw that Gu Yi had arrived and knew that the dragon blood was most likely refined. He quickly stood up and said in a clear voice, "My humble mansion is humble and does not dare to invite you." As expected, Gu Yi entered the hall with a small bottle in his hand. Inside was a scarlet red liquid. Although it was stored in a bottle, the tyrannical aura still assailed his nostrils. This was a strong but not pungent smell. Smelling it made people feel relaxed and happy, as if they had gained a lot of life force. Nie Tian knew that the small bottle contained dragon blood. It had to be said that the pill masters of the Alchemist Guild were really efficient. In just a short half a day, they had already refined dragon blood. How would Nie Tian know that after knowing that he urgently needed dragon blood to save his life, Gu Yi did not stop to rest? He personally brought all the pill masters of the 3rd rank and above from the Alchemist Guild and directly rushed to the Tian Luo Mountain to refine dragon blood at the Dragon Bloodstone Vein. Chapter 302. Brother Nye, the dragon blood that you want was personally refined by me. It is absolutely pure. Gu Yi walked over and handed the small bottle to Nie Tian. His goatee and slanted eyebrows were slightly raised. He looked proud and happy. Nie Tian opened the bottle. Instantly, a fiery dragon aura filled the entire hall. Indistinctly, there was a dragon-shaped shadow floating in the air. Everyone felt a surge of excitement in their hearts, and they immediately felt their blood boiling. This was the terror of the dragon blood. Just the dragon aura that it emitted could greatly stimulate a martial artist. Old Gu, I won't say anything else. Nie Tian, will remember this matter. Nie Tian looked at Gu Yi and said seriously. Nie Tian was a person who could distinguish between kindness and hatred. To his enemies, he would seek revenge. To his friends, he would be generous. Old Gu was a 6th-stage alchemist. He could naturally do a basic task like refining dragon blood very well. Nie Tian could feel that the dragon blood in his hand was extremely pure. There was not a single impurity in it. Actually, Even a first-stage alchemist could refine dragon blood. However, they would definitely not be as good as a high-level alchemist. That was why Nietian let the Alchemist Guild's third stage and above alchemists refine dragon blood. The dragon bloodstone was a rare item. It would be a pity to waste it. Knowing that the small bottle contained dragon blood, everyone's eyes were wide open. Dragon blood. That was dragon blood. Who wouldn't want it? Yeah, damn. Inside the chaotic original coffin, Little Nine and Corpse Demon Lord felt the aura of the dragon blood and exclaimed at the same time. Especially Little Nine, who was squealing nonstop. His saliva was dripping out. He spread his fiery red wings excitedly and rolled in the air. Corpse Demon Lord was also greedy and wagged his tail. Dragon blood. That was dragon blood in Nietian's hand. Level 9 Chaos Beasts were naturally sensitive. Of course, they could sense the terror of dragon blood. As for Corpse Luo Demon Monarch, he was the king of the devil world. Naturally, he coveted something like dragon blood. Nietan slightly shook his head, saying to Little Nine, "Little fellow, this bottle of dragon blood is not for you." Yeah. When Little Nine heard Nietian's words, his body that was still tumbling in the air suddenly stopped. Landing on the ground, he immediately stood up, his little claws waving left and right, evidently extremely unwilling. Nietian was speechless. He had to explain, "Little guy, this bottle of dragon blood is used to save your life. When you were in the bloody slaughtered ancient tomb, you stole someone's heaven eyes cold fruit. Now that person is in danger. He needs this dragon blood to save his life. Just bear with it for now." Little Nine's large eyes rotated several times, as if he understood Nietian's words. His mouth was pouting high, a helpless expression on his face. Corpse Demon Monarch was completely speechless. He was extremely suspicious. Was the youngster in front of him really the Heaven Realm's #1 war god who killed without hesitation? Was he really the peak of the Heaven Realm's sword Dao that caused people to tremble in fear? No matter how he looked at him, he didn't look like a war god. Instead, he looked more like a mother coaxing her child. Although Little Nine was a little dissatisfied and mumbled something, he still obediently went to sleep and cultivate. After comforting Little Nine, Nietian asked Corpse Demon Monarch, "Corpse Luo, what do we do next?" Corpse Demon Monarch had devoured some of the power of blood before. He was obviously more familiar with it than Nietian. Hence, it was up to him to decide what to do next. Corpse Demon Monarch swallowed his saliva and suppressed his desire for dragon blood. After calming his emotions, he said, "Female, no, Lady Ryu, the power of blood in her body is currently at its most violent stage. Hence, you cannot directly consume the dragon blood. You must first take a medicinal bath. Only when the power of blood is slightly suppressed can you directly consume the dragon blood." Nietian nodded. Corpse Demon Monarch's words were very reasonable. The power of blood in Rui Qinyu's body was at its most violent stage. If she directly consumed the dragon blood, the dragon chi and the power of blood in her body would clash violently. It was definitely not something her body could withstand. This was like a person who had just recovered from serious illness. It was best not to consume too much and could only recover slowly. After asking Corpse Demon Monarch for some details, Nietian looked at Tang Yuyu and Xiao. He introduced Rui Qinyu's situation to them. Finally, he reminded them, during the medicinal bath, drip 3 drops of dragon blood at a time, no more and no less. You guys just watch from aside. If anything goes wrong, shout for me. Since it was a medicinal bath, they naturally had to remove their clothes. Nietian did not have the fortune to participate in this process. He could only trouble Xiao and Tang Yuyu. Xiao nodded and said, "Brother Nietian, don't worry. We will take good care of Teacher Royu." Nietian nodded and handed the bottle of dragon blood to Xiao. After a while, the group arrived at the courtyard where Rui Qinyu was. Xiao and Tang Yuyu carried a wooden bucket of warm water into the room. The others stood guard outside. Elder Li and the 3 lay brothers could only stand in the courtyard and wait patiently. Although Elder Li did not know what happened to Rui Qinyu, he could feel that it was not as simple as a normal injury. Since Tian did not say anything, Elderly did not dare to ask. After the trip to the bloody massacre ancient tomb, Elder Li's opinion of Tian had changed greatly. He could no longer underestimate the young man in front of him. In the room, Rui Qinyu was still unconscious. Qiu Ling and Tang Yuyu carefully took off her clothes. Under the glowing light, an extremely perfect body appeared. Her skin was as white as snow, crystal clear and smooth, like that of a newborn baby. There was not a trace of excess fat on her body. She would be fat if she gained a bit and skinny if she lost a bit. If any man saw this scene, his blood would definitely boil and he would be drenched in sweat. He would lose his mind and his bestial nature would be aroused. Qiu Ling, and Tang Yuyu could not help but stare blankly, feeling a little ashamed of themselves. The two quickly calmed down and carried Rui Qinyu into the wooden bucket. Sizzle. As soon as Rui Qinyu's body entered the bucket, a layer of bubbles appeared on the surface of the water. There was also a faint black energy flowing in the water. Qiu Ling, and Tang Yuyu were shocked and almost screamed. Fortunately, they refrained from screaming. If they had screamed, Tian would definitely have rushed in, and that would have been very bad. Qiu Ling followed Tian's instructions and dripped dragon blood into the wooden bucket. Dong, dong, dong. There were exactly 3 drops. The moment the dragon blood dripped into the bucket, Rui Qinyu let out a moan. Her brows suddenly furrowed, as if she was suffering from great pain. She had already woken up. She could feel the dragon chi in the dragon blood seeping into her body and slowly suppressing the power of the blood. This was a painful process, but Rui Qinyu did not make a sound. She had endured the power of the blood for 5 years, which was unbearable for ordinary people. The process of opening the 9 color pupils twice was also extremely painful. Chapter 303. Outside the room, Tian and the others waited anxiously. Ever since Qiu Ling, and Tang Yuyu entered the room, apart from a soft moan, there was no other sound. Everyone was very worried, especially Elderly. He saw Rui Qinyu as the last hope of the bloody slaughter palace. If something happened to her, he really didn't know what to do. Tian's eyebrows furrowed slightly, but he didn't seem too worried. He knew that the fact that nothing had happened was good news. If something really happened, Qiu Ling, and Tang Yuyu would definitely scream and scream. That would be really worrying. In the room, after an unknown amount of time, Rui Qinyu's frown finally relaxed. Her beautiful eyes suddenly opened. She felt a cool and comfortable feeling spreading from her body, as if it was spreading to every inch of her flesh and blood, every inch of her bones, and even her internal organs and meridians. She could feel a comfortable coolness. For the first time after activating the 9 color pupils, Rui Qinyu didn't feel any pain from the power of the devouring blood. Her whole body felt extremely comfortable, as if she was drinking nectar. The pain from the power of the devouring blood was completely gone. Dean Rui, are you all right? Qiu Ling, saw that Rui Qinyu had opened her eyes and went up to ask her carefully. In her eyes, Rui Qinyu was still the dean of Bayun Academy. She was the kind of person who was high up and out of reach. Ling, why does Sister Rui Qinyu's name have 4 words, but our names only have 3? Tang Yu didn't feel that kind of distance and asked quietly. Qiu Ling, waved her hand, gesturing for Tang Yuyu to keep quiet. The latter stuck out his tongue. Although he looked reluctant, he still obediently shut up. Rui Qinyu's perfect face didn't change much. She only said lightly, "I'm all right. Thank you. You can leave." She wasn't wearing any clothes. Even though there were 2 girls behind her, she still felt uncomfortable. Yes. Qiu Ling nodded and turned around, ready to leave. However, she suddenly thought of something and turned around again. She handed over a small bottle of dragon blood and said respectfully, "Teacher Ryu, Brother Tian asked me to tell you that you have to take 3 drops of this dragon blood every day and then take 3 drops. After 3 days, you don't need to take the medicinal bath anymore. You can take it directly. Take 5 drops twice a day." Although Rui Qinyu was no longer Bai Yun's teacher, Qiuling still regarded her as the headmaster, so she was careful with her words. Rui Qinyu took the dragon blood, nodded and said, "Thank you. We'll be going now." Qiuling nodded and quickly turned to leave. Rui Qinyu held the dragon blood in her hand and frowned slightly. Her expression was a little complicated, and no one knew what she was thinking. Creak. The door opened, and Qiuling and Tang Yu walked out. Qiuling's forehead was covered in sweat. She had finally completed the task that Nie Tian had given her. It was as if she had just done something important, and she was very excited. Tang Yu, on the other hand, looked indifferent and even a little proud. When he saw the two of them walk out, Elderly was the first to go up and ask nervously, "Ladies, is our young mistress all right?" "Elderly, don't worry. Teacher Ryu has woken up. She's fine now." Qiuling wiped the sweat off her forehead and said happily. At the same time, Qiuling looked at Nie Tian. Nie Tian nodded and let out a long breath, as if a heavy stone had finally been lifted from his heart. In fact, when he saw Qiuling and Tang Yu walk out, Nie Tian knew that Rui Qinyu was fine, so he didn't go up to ask. "Brother Nie Tian, pretty sister is fine now, right?" Nie Yuro tugged at Nie Tian's hand and asked in a clear voice. Nie Tian nodded and tapped Nie Yuro's forehead with a smile. "Little girl, go and rest. Brother Nie Tian, Rower is already a big girl." Nie Yuro's face was full of dissatisfaction. Her serious expression was very lovable. After a while, everyone left. Elderly was worried about Rui Qinyu and stood guard in the yard. Nie Tian let the three lay brothers rest and called Qiu Shan over alone. The two came to an empty yard in the city lord's mansion. "Sir," Qiu Shan stood behind Nie Tian and greeted respectfully. Nie Tian asked, "Qiu Shan, did anything happen in Heaven Luo City recently?" "No." Qiu Shan shook his head. Heaven Luo Mountain is guarded by the Alchemist Guild's Danwu Imperial Guard and the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce. Heaven Luo City is guarded by the three lay brothers, so everything is peaceful. Nie Tian nodded and smiled. "That's good." Nie Tian continued. "Next, I will be in seclusion for a few days." Qiu Shan said, "Sir, go ahead. Leave Heaven Luo City to Qiu Shan." Nie Tian nodded slightly and suddenly thought of something. "Right, I almost forgot. The Dragon Blood Martial Gathering has been brought forward. It will start in 10 days. The Dragon Blood Martial Gathering has been brought forward." Qiu Shan was stunned. Nie Tian nodded. "I am worried that someone will cause trouble in Heaven Luo City tomorrow. Bring the three lay brothers and keep an eye on them. Don't be lenient to anyone who causes trouble. No matter who they are, as long as you feel they are a threat, just get rid of them." "Yes." Qiu Shan was long used to Nie Tian's domineering attitude and agreed respectfully. "Sir, you were at the Bloody Slaughter Ancient Tomb." Qiu Shan thought that Nie Tian had gone to the Bloody Slaughter Ancient Tomb this time. He wanted to say something, but stopped himself. Nie Tian obviously knew what Qiu Shan was thinking. It was rumored that those who could leave the Bloody Slaughter Ancient Tomb alive were either crazy or stupid. Moreover, they would die within 3 months. But Nie Tian's current state was obviously neither crazy nor stupid. "You don't have to worry about me." Nie Tian smiled faintly. Then he thought of something and said, "This time in the Bloody Slaughter Ancient Tomb, I saw Dongfang Du." Hearing this name, Qiu Shan was stunned. He exclaimed, "The son of Transformation God Sect leader Dongfang Yu." Qiu Shan's biggest enemy was Transformation God Sect leader Dongfang Yu. Of course, he would pay more attention to his enemy. Naturally, he had heard of the name Dongfang Du. Moreover, Dongfang Du was so famous that even if Qiu Shan didn't deliberately inquire about him, he would have heard of him. He was the second genius on the Southern Mountain Territory's genius ranking. His talent and strength were outstanding among the younger generation of the Southern Mountain Territory. Moreover, he was cruel and merciless. He was a ruthless person who killed without blinking an eye. Nie Tian suddenly mentioned Dongfang Du because of his relationship with Dongfang Yu. Nie Tian said, "When Dongfang Du was in the Bloody Slaughter Ancient Tomb, we had some conflicts. I seriously injured him. I don't know if he is still alive. If he leaves the bloody slaughter ancient tomb alive, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to Tianluo City. You have to be careful. Qiu Shan was stunned and couldn't react for a long time. Nie Tian just said that he seriously injured Dongfang Du. How was that possible? Dongfang Du was the second genius on the Southern Mountain Territory's genius ranking. His strength was probably close to the true energy realm. Chapter 304. What Qiu Shan didn't know was that Nie Tian had not only heavily injured Dongfang Du, but he was also fighting 1 against 2. His other opponent was not weak either. It was the third-ranked genius of the South Mountain region's genius ranking, Chu Shifeng. If someone knew that Nie Tian had fought against Dongfang Du and Chu Shifeng with manifestation realm strength, their eyeballs would probably fall to the ground. Nie Tian ignored Qiu Shan's shock and said directly, "If you encounter an enemy you cannot handle, have elderly fight, or go find Gu." Yes. Qiu Shan finally reacted and nodded with a bow. Although Nie Tian did not say how he had heavily injured Dongfang Du, Qiu Shan could guess that the situation had been extremely dangerous. At this time, Qiu Shan was even more convinced that following by Nie Tian's side was the wisest decision he had made in his life. Qiu Shan suddenly remembered that before coming to Heaven Luo City, Nie Tian had promised him that in 3 years he would definitely take revenge. Now it seemed that this promise could really be fulfilled, and it was going to be fulfilled ahead of time. After separating from Qiu Shan, Nie Tian returned to his room. In the next few days, he prepared to cultivate in seclusion. Before the Dragon Blood Martial gathering, he had to at least reach the Giant Spirit Realm. If he could not reach the Giant Spirit Realm, it would be almost impossible for Nie Tian to become the champion of the Dragon Blood Martial gathering. In the ancient Bloody Tomb, Nie Tian had already seen the strength of the geniuses of the South Mountain region. Dongfang Du, Chu Shifeng, none of them were easy to deal with, and that purple flame was even more troublesome. At this moment, if Nie Tian had astral souls in his hands, he would be able to contend against Dongfang Du and Chu Shifeng. But if he were to encounter the violet flames, he would not be able to contend against them with a mere second-level astral soul. Moreover, the news of the Dragon Blood Martial gathering had not only spread through the South Mountain region, but the other 3 regions of the 3,000 little worlds, and even the people of Sumi Ling capital, knew about the Dragon Bloodstone. Perhaps the geniuses of the other 3 domains, or even the people of Sumi's spiritual capital, also coveted the Dragon Bloodstone. After all, this was the Dragon Bloodstone, a rare treasure. Who wouldn't want to possess it? In order to deal with the Dragon Blood Martial group more easily, Nie Tian had to raise his strength to the Giant Spirit Realm. More importantly, once his strength rose to the Giant Spirit Realm, he would be able to open the next page of the Star Soul original tome. That was a 3rd-rank Star Soul. If he was able to inscribe a 3rd-level Astral Soul before the start of the Dragon Blood Martial meet, Nie Tian's chances of obtaining first place would be much higher. A 2nd-level Star Soul could instantly kill an expert like Gong Feiyu, imprison Dongfang Du and Chu Shifeng at the same time, and even severely injure Dongfang Du. It was the forbidden technique of the Divine Transformation Art, the Dragon Form Divine Transformation Art. With a 3rd-level Astral Soul, Nie Tian would definitely be able to deal with True Element Realm experts with ease. True Element Realm experts below the age of 30 could be counted on one's fingers in the Nanshan region. In the entire 3,000 lesser worlds, there probably weren't many. As for the ancient dragon soul hidden in the Tianluo mountain, Nie Tian planned to search for it after the Dragon Blood Martial meet. The dragon soul didn't have a physical body and couldn't be too far away from the place where the divine dragon died, so Nie Tian didn't have to worry about the dragon soul escaping. Entering the room, Nie Tian immediately sat cross-legged and quickly entered into a state of cultivation. He first entered the Galaxy Domain within the Raw Star Stone. Within the Galaxy Domain, the domain origin formation slowly revolved, without a beginning, without rest, without end. And in the center of the domain origin formation, the Raw Star Stone connected to the 9 heavens river stood upright, like a giant that split the heavens and earth apart, silently plowing the vast space within the Galaxy Domain. On the Raw Star Stone, specks of starlight linked together, forming a vast and boundless totem, revealing the tip of the iceberg. Raw star stone, galaxy domain, domain origin formation, star power, nine heavens river, what secrets are hidden here? Nyetian looked at the raw star stone that he couldn't see the top, and couldn't help but mumble to himself. He suddenly remembered that in the bloody slaughter ancient tomb, when he was facing the fatal attack of corpse Luo Demon King, the 320,000 star power in the star stone suddenly surged out of his body, forming an invisible star shield around him. But at that time, Rui Qinyu forcefully opened her 9-color pupils, using the blue pupil eye seal to block the fatal blow for Nyetian. Nyetian had a premonition that even if Rui Qinyu hadn't blocked the fatal blow for him, the astral shield would have been able to withstand the corpse demon lord's attack. To this day, Nyetian still remembered that during the freshman martial meet of Tyrant Cloud Academy, he had been ambushed by Tang Yuyu, and at that time, the raw star stone suddenly shook, allowing him to avoid the fatal blow. Combined with the astral shield this time, Nyetian was even more puzzled. Could it be that the raw star stone had a life of its own? Otherwise, why would it protect Nyetian without any warning? In fact, when Nyetian first obtained the raw star stone, he felt that there seemed to be a powerful life within it. But later on, the raw star stone became his 10th Yuan meridian, so he didn't pay attention to it anymore. Now, there are only two explanations. One is that the raw star stone has a life of its own and can protect me when I'm in danger. The other is that my subconscious has unknowingly entered the 10th Yuan meridian and affected the raw star stone, so the raw star stone unconsciously released the star power to protect me. Nyetian murmured in a low voice, as he couldn't figure out which guess was more reasonable. Huff! After thinking for a long time, Nyetian exhaled deeply and said, "No matter what, I have to uncover the secret of the raw star stone." The raw star stone was obtained in the Heaven Domain's number 1 forbidden land, the Dark Sea Galaxy. Rumor has it that the Dark Sea Galaxy hides the secret of a martial artist breaking through to the God Realm. Perhaps this secret is hidden in the raw star stone. As long as I can uncover the secret of the raw star stone, I can break through to the God Realm. At the end of his sentence, Nyetian's mouth involuntarily curled up, revealing a strong sense of confidence. But it was still too early to think about this now. The most important thing for Nyetian now was to seize the time to cultivate and quickly advance to the giant spirit realm. The giant spirit realm meant the giant spirit true body. The giant spirit true body of a 9th level chaos beast was absolutely terrifying. At the thought of this, Nyetian couldn't help but feel his blood boiling. He didn't stay in the Star River domain anymore and immediately entered the chaotic origin coffin. The chaotic origin coffin was a little lively now. There were already 3 occupants: Little Nine, the corpse demon lord, and the Mirage Snow Fox. At this time, Little Nine was sleeping soundly, and the Mirage Snow Fox was lying beside Little Nine, also sleeping soundly. Only the corpse demon lord was biting its own tail and spinning in circles out of boredom. When Nyetian saw this scene, he was completely speechless. Who would have thought that the spirit-devouring rat in front of him was actually one of the 9 great demon lords under the 9 Darkness Demon Emperor? Master? It was only when Nyetian's figure appeared that the corpse demon lord exclaimed in surprise. "Corpse demon, you're quite relaxed," Nyetian teased. The other 2 fellows were sleeping very soundly, and Nyetian didn't need to worry about waking them up. Chapter 305. What is it? Nyetian couldn't help but be interested when he saw the serious look on the cadavered demon monarch's face. He was in a chaos source coffin anyway, so it didn't matter if he wasted some time. "It's about your coffin." The cadaver demon monarch jumped onto Nyetian's shoulder and looked around the chaos source coffin with its small eyes. Its voice was trembling. Nyetian smiled and said, "Are you saying that the flow of time in the chaos source coffin is much slower than the outside world?" The flow of time in the chaos source coffin was only 1/10 of the outside world. Nyetian naturally thought that the cadaver demon monarch was so surprised because it realized this. The cadaver demon monarch shook its small head and said, "Master, Do you still remember the 5 level 9 spiritual tools in the cadaver hall? Yes. Yet Tian smiled faintly. Of course, he remembered because those 5 level 9 spiritual tools were in his hands. Tian had already thought of who to give the 5 level 9 spiritual tools to. However, Yuro and the others were too weak now. Even if they were given the level 9 spiritual tools, they wouldn't be able to unleash their full power. Instead, they would be in danger because of it. Tian planned to let Jean de Bayo apply the 3,000 celestial seals on the 5 level 9 spiritual tools, temporarily suppressing the spiritual tools to level 5. Not only was this very suitable for Yuro and the others' current strength, but it could also fool others. In fact, Tian could also seal level 9 spiritual tools, but his seal couldn't compare to Jean de Bayo's 3,000 celestial seals. The 3,000 celestial seals was one of the 10 most powerful seals. Even if it sealed level 9 spiritual tools, ordinary people wouldn't be able to see through it. And those who could see through it definitely wouldn't be able to break the 3,000 celestial seals. Even if the 3,000 celestial seals in Jean de Bayo's body were very weak, it definitely wasn't something that ordinary sealers could break. In fact, when Tian used the heaven-ranked martial arts to exchange for the Dragon Bloodstone, the Cadaver Demon Monarch already knew that Tian had taken away all the level 9 spiritual tools and various martial arts and pill recipes in the Cadaver Hall. Those were the treasures that the Cadaver Corpse Demon Monarch had kept for his entire life. When he saw Tian casually give away the heaven-ranked martial arts, his heart was bleeding. The Cadaver Demon Monarch had signed a soul blood contract with Tian, so those martial arts and spirit artifacts were useless to him. Right now, the most important thing for the Cadaver Corpse Demon Monarch was to know when Tian would be able to break the soul blood contract. The Cadaver Demon Monarch continued, "Master, I feel that the aura of your Chaos Source Coffin is very similar to that of one of the 5 ninth-grade spiritual artifacts. It's almost the same." Tian was slightly stunned and immediately said, "You mean that black tombstone?" When Tian had been in the corpse sifting hall, he had carefully examined the 5 ninth-grade spirit artifacts, including the Violet Wind Jade Stream Sword, the Dragon Mark Cauldron, the Distant Dragon Cauldron, the Blue Phoenix Vine Halo, and the Flame Spear of the Greedy Wolf Snake. The only thing he couldn't sense was that black tombstone. Moreover, there seemed to be some kind of law energy flowing within the black tombstone, and there were tadpole-like runes on it. It was very strange, and yet Tian couldn't understand it all. Now that he thought about it, the black tombstone's aura was indeed somewhat similar to the Chaos Source Coffin. Yes, the Cadaver Corpse Demon Monarch nodded. It's the Star Soul Tablet. Star Soul Tablet. Hearing this name, Tian cried out in shock. His expression changed greatly, and he almost jumped up. "Master, are you okay?" Seeing Tian's big reaction, the Cadaver Corpse Demon Monarch jumped down from his shoulder in fright and asked in astonishment. Tian realized that he had lost his composure and quickly adjusted his emotions, forcing himself to calm down, and asked, "How do you know that the black tombstone is called the Star Soul Tablet? Where did the Star Soul Tablet come from?" Star Soul Tablet. Just by hearing this name, Tian could guess that this tombstone was definitely related to the Chaos Source Coffin, and it was definitely related to the Star Soul Original Codex. In addition, the aura on the black tombstone was very similar to the Chaos Source Coffin, so this relationship was self-evident. Seeing Tian so excited, the Cadaver Corpse Demon Monarch couldn't help but become serious and said, "The Star Soul Tablet was brought out by the flaming devil ancestor from the Heaven Realm's forbidden area, the Dark Sea Galaxy. He said that the tombstone is called the Star Soul Tablet." Flaming devil ancestor? Tian was stunned. Obviously, he had heard of this name before. The Flaming Devil Ancestor was a legendary figure in the 9 Serenities Devil World, and his reputation in the Devil World was comparable to the 9 Serenities Devil Emperor Qi Wuxiao. It was just that the Flaming Devil Ancestor had fallen a long time ago, and yet Tian had never seen this legendary figure before. When he heard that the Star Soul Tablet was brought out by the flaming devil ancestor from the Dark Sea Galaxy, Nietion immediately understood something. Judging from the time of the flaming devil ancestor's existence, he must have visited the Dark Sea Galaxy before Nietion. The flaming devil ancestor dared to create the Heaven Realm's #1 forbidden area, so he was definitely an extremely crazy person. Nietion speculated that the reason why the Flame Devil Patriarch had taken away the Star Soul Steel, but not the Star Origin Stone, was because he was stopped by the 9 guardian beasts guarding the Dark Sea Godly Palace. Therefore, he couldn't enter the Dark Sea Godly Palace and take away the Star Origin Stone. The Star Origin Stone was obtained by Nietion in the core protection array of the Dark Sea Palace. At that time, in order to enter the Dark Sea Palace, he fought with the 9 guardian beasts for several days and finally succeeded in killing them. So he took the Star Origin Stone. After the Star Origin Stone was taken away by Nietion, the Dark Sea Palace collapsed, and the Dark Sea Galaxy disappeared. Yes, the surly demon monarch nodded his little head fiercely and continued. After the flaming devil ancestor came back from the Dark Sea Galaxy, he devoted himself to the Star Soul Tablet and studied it day and night. In the end, he died inexplicably. Died? Nietion was stunned again. He didn't expect the flaming devil ancestor to die like this. A madman of the devil realm died on a tombstone. It was really sad. Nietion took a deep breath and gradually calmed down. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked with a smile, "Surely, demon monarch, the Star Soul Tablet was brought out by the flaming devil ancestor from the Dark Sea Galaxy. Why is it in your hands?" The surely demon monarch smiled and said, "The ancestor is dead, and I am his grandson. Of course the Star Soul Tablet is mine." "You are the descendant of the flaming devil ancestor?" Nietion was stunned and looked at the surly demon monarch suspiciously. The surly demon monarch straightened his little body and said, "Master, do you think I don't look like it?" Nietion's face darkened, and he didn't know what to say. The flaming devil ancestor, a super madman who dared to venture into the Dark Sea Galaxy alone, had a descendant who looked like a spirit-devouring rat. If he was still alive, how would he feel about the current surly demon monarch? "Master, take out the Star Soul Tablet now and see if it has anything to do with your Chaos Source Coffin." The surly demon monarch didn't care about Nietion's expression. The long whiskers around his mouth moved in circles as he said excitedly. The surly demon monarch didn't know that in Nietion's Chaos Source Coffin, other than the 9-level Chaos Beast and the Phantom Snow Fox, there was also the Star Soul Original Codex. He also didn't know that the Chaos Source Coffin and the Star Origin Stone were inextricably linked. Chapter 306. The Primal Star Stone was something from the Dark Sea Galaxy, and the Star Soul Tablet was also something from the Dark Sea Galaxy. Nietion would never believe that there was no relationship between the two. Nietion's divine sense came out of his soul space and took out the Star Soul Tablet from his interspatial ring. Carefully observing the Star Soul Tablet again, Nietion felt even more deeply the strange tadpole-shaped symbols on it. They seemed to have the same wonderful effect as the star energy on the Star Raw Stone. Rule force, it's definitely rule force, and it's a rule force that has never appeared before. Carefully sensing the threads of aura emitted by the Star Soul Tablet, Nietion was unable to conceal the shock in his heart as he muttered. The power of rules was the natural law of heaven and earth. It was a power that was difficult for a martial artist to change. Only when a martial artist reached the heavenly evolution realm and above would their body contain the true meaning of heavenly evolution. Then they would be able to touch the threshold of the power of rules. However, even when they reached the celestial being realm, or even the celestial emperor realm, martial artists could only use the rules of heaven and earth. They could never change the rules of heaven and earth. Nietion never thought that someone could actually condense rule force on a tombstone. Without a doubt, the person who created the Star Soul Tablet absolutely possessed a power that ordinary people couldn't understand. He might be a God-state martial artist. God. It was a simple word, but it had completely widened the gap between him and ordinary martial artists. In the Heaven Realm's divine realm, There had been many peak Heavenly Emperor martial artists. They all tried to comprehend the God realm, hoping to break through the shackles of the Heavenly Emperor realm. Unfortunately, these people all perished under the laws of heaven and earth. The cultivation of a martial artist was originally an action that defied the heavenly Tao, a struggle against the heavens. Although the lifespan of a martial artist far exceeded that of an ordinary person, there was still a limit to how long it would last. Generally speaking, every time a martial artist advanced a great realm, their lifespan would increase by 100 years. Hence, even Heavenly Emperor powerhouses merely had a lifespan of 1,000 years too. It was not even as long as an ordinary dwarf race's lifespan, much less comparable to the elf race whose lifespan was virtually limitless. Humans were considered the weakest among all the races. They didn't have the physique of the demon tribe and the orc tribe. They didn't have the strong vitality of the dwarf tribe, and they didn't have the super long lifespan of the elf tribe. However, in the ancient war between races, the human race won in the end. It was very miraculous. The lifespan of a martial artist was limited, but once they advanced to the legendary God realm, they could surpass the rules of heaven and earth and become an existence on par with heaven and earth, existing with the mountains and rivers, shining as brightly as the sun and moon. The divine realm was more like a legend. In the long river of time, although there had been rumors about the divine realm, no one had really broken through to the divine realm. However, countless Heavenly Emperor powerhouses believed that the deity realm was definitely not just a legend and definitely existed. Nietian was once a 9th-level Heavenly Emperor powerhouse in his previous life. He could sense the power of laws circulating between heaven and earth. Furthermore, he could also sense that even more mysterious power. Although he could not capture it, it indeed existed. Therefore, Nietian firmly believed that the godly state did exist. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risked his life to venture into the Dark Sea galaxy alone. At this moment, Nietian witnessed that someone was actually able to condense the power of the law on the Astral Soul Tablet. He firmly believed that the person who did this was absolutely a deity realm powerhouse, and the Astral Primordial Stone was absolutely something even more miraculous than the Astral Soul Tablet. The creator of the Astral Primordial Stone was definitely an ancient divine being of the legends. Nietian's brows furrowed slightly. He could sense that the power of the law on the Astral Soul Tablet was a very strange power. It was actually a kind of power that he had never seen before. Not the power of the 5 elements, not the power of the 4 elements, not the power of yin and yang, and not even the power of space-time. Could it be that other powers of the law still exist in this world? Nietian could not resist the shock in his heart and murmured softly, "Master!" At this time, Corpse Luo Devil Lord's voice sounded out and said, "Master, you try to brand a soul imprint on the Astral Soul Tablet. See if the Astral Soul Tablet can enter your soul space too." Nietian was stunned and immediately said with a smile, "Corpse Luo, you're muddle-headed, right? The Astral Soul Tablet is an inanimate object. How can it possibly be branded with a soul imprint? For anything to want to enter a martial artist's soul space, it must have the martial artist's soul imprint. But the soul imprint can only be engraved on living things. Things without life like spirit pills and spirit artifacts cannot enter a martial artist's soul space. Therefore, when the Phantom Snow Fox and Corpse Luo Devil Lord entered Nietian's Dragon Soul space, their bodies were branded with Nietian's soul imprint. Corpse Luo Devil Lord's sharp mouth pouted and said in a mysterious tone, "Master, you'll know after you try." Nietian was slightly stunned and immediately thought of something. Immediately, a wisp of divine sense entered the Astral Soul Tablet. The soul imprint shot into the Astral Soul Tablet like a golden ray. There's no rebound. The soul imprint has been branded. Nietian was stunned and only reacted after a long time. Just now, he saw Corpse Luo Devil Lord's strange expression and guessed something. But when it was confirmed, it was still shocking. The Astral Soul Tablet did not reject the soul imprint. There was only one explanation, The astral soul tablet had life. This discovery shocked Nietian for a long time. If the astral soul tablet had life, then, without a doubt, the primal star stone also had life. In that case, the person who created the primal star stone and the astral soul tablet had created life. Creating life, then that person was the creator of the world. This shocking discovery made Nietian's heart turn cold. His hair stood on end, and his expression stiffened for a long time without any reaction. The soul imprint has really been branded. While Nietian was shocked, Corpse Luo Devil Lord was even more shocked. He jumped up and screamed, almost waking up the 9 Extreme, Chaos Beast, and Phantom Snow Fox. After a long time, Nietian heard Corpse Luo Devil Lord scream. He slowly let out a breath of turbid air and frowned. Didn't you already know that I could brand a soul imprint? Nietian thought Corpse Luo Devil Lord already knew that the astral soul tablet had life. But seeing how shocked he was, perhaps there was more to it than met the eye. Corpse Luo Devil Lord's heart was beating rapidly. Everything that was happening in front of him was so exciting that he could not recover from it. After a long time, Corpse Luo Devil Lord calmed down a little and said, "Master, you don't know. I was just letting you try your luck just now. I once saw the Flaming Demon Patriarch leave a soul imprint on the Astral Soul Tablet. But after the Patriarch passed away, I tried countless times to leave a soul imprint on the Astral Soul Tablet. But no matter what, I could not succeed. At first, I thought that I was the problem, so I let others try, but no one succeeded. I really did not expect you to succeed, Master. This is really amazing." Towards the end, Corpse Luo Devil Lord's voice was mixed with a trembling tone. He had just said it casually to let Nietian try. Chapter 307. Nietian succeeded in leaving his soul imprint on the Star Soul Steel. This was something that Corpse Demon Lord had not expected. Back then, he had tried his best to take the Star Soul Steel for himself. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, he still failed. Now, Nietian had succeeded after a casual attempt. How could Corpse Luo Demon Lord not be surprised? And he felt a little upset. Star Soul Steel, record all the star souls in the galaxy. Just as Nietian's soul imprint landed on the steel, a shocking voice sounded in his mind. The voice was short, but the shock it caused in Nietian's mind lasted for a long time. Star Soul Steel, record all the star souls in the galaxy. After a while, Nietian suppressed the shock in his heart and murmured softly. At this time, he recalled a sentence in the Star Soul Original Book. Star Soul Original Book, record all the star souls in the galaxy. Star Soul Original Book and Star Soul Steel. One recorded star souls, the other recorded star souls. The close relationship between the two was self-evident. Could it be? Nietian frowned. A thought appeared in his mind. The star souls are not inscribed on the chaotic original coffin, but on the Star Soul Steel. What was the relationship between the chaotic original coffin and the Star Soul Steel? Nietian had no idea. When he got the Star Soul Steel, Nietian had mocked himself. I have a coffin, a tombstone. All I'm missing is a corpse. But now he had a corpse. It was Corpse Demon Lord. Corpse Demon Lord's corpse demon body. If not a corpse, what was it? Master, what are you thinking about? Are you okay? Corpse Luo Demon Monarch couldn't help but ask as he saw Nietian's expression change over and over again, his beady eyes rolling around. Nietian reacted and casually waved his hand. He couldn't help but smile in excitement, and immediately brought the Star Soul Steel into the chaotic original coffin. With Nietian's soul imprint on the Star Soul Steel, it could enter and exit his soul space at will. Star Soul Original Codex, come out. After entering the Primal Chaos original coffin, Nietian smiled faintly and stretched out his palm. Suddenly, the sublayer of the Primal Chaos origin coffin trembled slightly. The astral soul diagrams that filled the sublayer of the Primal Chaos origin coffin instantly converged and transformed into a dazzling heavenly book that appeared in Nietian's hand. The heavenly book was simple and dignified, and it was enveloped in specks of starlight, giving off a holy and dignified feeling. It was precisely the Star Soul original book. Star Soul Origin Codex. Looking at the 4 words on the heavenly book, Corpse Demon King froze. His heart jumped to his throat, unable to go down anymore. Even the whiskers at the corner of his mouth stopped moving, and everything became still. Star Soul Original Codex. When Corpse Luo Devil Lord saw the original codex of astral souls, the reason why he was so shocked was not because of the book, but because of the name. Actually, Corpse Demon Monarch had long sensed that the sublayer of the chaotic original coffin was filled with all sorts of strange patterns. However, he did not pay too much attention to it. He had never imagined that these strange patterns were the star souls of the original Star Soul Codex. Star Soul Original Codex. Corpse Demon Monarch had long heard of this name from Flame Demon Old Ancestor. After Flame Demon Old Ancestor obtained the Star Soul Tablet, he studied it day and night, and in the end, he studied himself to death. Before he died, he kept muttering one sentence. Where is the Star Soul Original Book? Where is the Star Soul Original Book? Without obtaining the Star Soul Original Book, Flame Demon Old Ancestor died with everlasting regret. Corpse Demon Monarch had never imagined that the Star Soul Original Book that Flame Demon Old Ancestor had been searching for was actually in the hands of Nietion. Star Soul Original Book, Star Soul Tablet. Let me see what the relationship between the two of you is. Nietion ignored Corpse Demon Monarch's surprise and smiled faintly. He opened the Star Soul Original Book and placed it in front of the Star Soul Tablet. At this moment, a strange scene happened. The originally dark and rough Star Soul Tablet suddenly lit up, and then it released a dazzling starlight. A faint halo appeared on its surface, as if it was a mirror formed from starlight. And in the next moment, the Star Soul on the Star Soul Original Book seemed to have a reaction. A Star Soul pattern flickered, emitted a light shadow, and imprinted on the Star Soul Tablet. Following that, the light shadow of the Star Soul on the Star Soul Tablet seemed to have a life of its own and began to slowly inscribe. The light shadow of the Star Soul on the Star Soul Tablet slowly became clearer and clearer. At the same time, in the Star River domain within the 10th Origin Meridian, the star power on the Primal Star Stone seemed to have some kind of reaction, and waves of star power appeared on the Star Soul Tablet in an incomprehensible way. Nietion even felt that even the domain origin array had accelerated at this moment. Nietion was completely stunned by the scene in front of him. He felt as if his brain had exploded, and his whole body became dizzy. His thoughts became slow, his senses became sluggish, and his movements became stiff. Corpse Demon Monarch was also stunned. Although he did not know what exactly happened, the magical scene in front of him made him unable to comprehend it. In particular, he could feel that the Star Soul being inscribed on the Star Soul Tablet contained some kind of terrifying power. This power was still very weak now, but once it grew stronger, it would be unimaginable. After a long, long time, Nietion finally came back to his senses. He was originally a person with a strong heart, but the scene in front of him was too unbelievable. Even he could not resist the shock. Gulp! Nietion licked his chapped lips and swallowed hard. His eyes were fixed on the Star Soul Tablet, and he said in a daze, the Star Soul Tablet is actually inscribing star souls on its own. That's right, it was inscribing star souls on its own. Nietion had only used the Star Soul Original Book to display it, and the result was that it was inscribed on the Star Soul Tablet. At this time, Nietion finally understood. It turned out that the Star Soul was not inscribed on the Primal Chaos Original Coffin, but inscribed on the Star Soul Tablet. However, the Primal Chaos Original Coffin and the Star Soul Tablet should have some kind of connection, so it could be used in place of the Star Soul Tablet. Inscribing Star Souls on the Star Soul Tablet did not require Nietion's mental energy, but the star energy from the Primal Chaos Original Stone. In this way, Nietion no longer needed to waste time inscribing star souls on the Star Soul Tablet. Because of inscribing star souls, Nietion had wasted a lot of time cultivating. Otherwise, with his current strength, even without the heavenly ice fragrant fruit and the soul-gathering blood pool, he should be around the giant spirit realm. The The Star Soul tablet can directly inscribe star souls, but I don't know how many I can inscribe each time and how fast I can inscribe. And yet Tion's heart calmed down, and his face regained its indifference. Master, the corpse demon king had also calmed down and looked at Tion in surprise. Just as it was about to speak, it was interrupted by Tion. Tion smiled. I can't tell you about me, at least not now. The corpse demon king's tail spun twice, and he didn't dare to ask anymore. Next, Tion directly sat cross-legged in the primal chaos original coffin and immediately entered into a state of cultivation. The Star Soul original book and Star Soul tablet could work automatically, and there was no need to care about them. The most important thing for Tion now was still to cultivate and advance to the giant spirit realm. Cultivating in the primal chaos original coffin was equivalent to 10 times more time than others. Chapter 308. 3 days later, Heaven Luo City. On the streets, people came and went. It was bustling with activity. It was simply a scene of people squeezing and stepping on each other. Jean de Bayo and the rest walked on the streets of Heaven Luo City leisurely. 3 days ago, the news of a dragon blood martial meet had spread throughout the southern mountain region. Although many people expressed their dissatisfaction, they were intimidated by the power of the Alchemist Guild and the Diyuan Chamber of Commerce, so they did not dare to overreact. Now that the dragon blood martial meet was about to begin, many martial artists came to Heaven Luo City in advance. Heaven Luo City, which originally did not have a lot of people, was now bustling with people. All the inns and taverns in Heaven Luo City were overcrowded. According to Jean de Bayo's instructions, all the inns and taverns in Heaven Luo City were to increase the price by 5 times, and they were not allowed to raise the price without permission. It had to be said that Jean de Bayo was quite farsighted. If Heaven Luo City's taverns were allowed to set the price privately, it would be a mess. Different prices would definitely arouse the dissatisfaction of the martial artists. At that time, there would probably be a big mess. But Jean de Bayo was still soft-hearted. If it was Tion who set the price, it would definitely be 10 or 20 times higher. Anyway, these martial artists who came to Heaven Luo City did not have any good intentions. They were all here for the dragon bloodstones. There was nothing wrong with profiting from them. Young Master Jean, this time, the citizens of Heaven Luo City have benefited from the city lord. I think the owners of the inns and taverns are going to make a killing. Beside Jean de Bayo, Gao Han chuckled. Of course, Jean de Bayo said with a proud face. Can my boss be like the former city lord? He only knows how to extort money from the citizens. Those who are truly capable will take money from the pockets of all the martial artists of the southern mountain region. Beside him, Qiu Ling had a face of disdain. She curled her lips and said, Fatty, that's big brother Tion who is powerful. What has it got to do with you? You speak as if you are capable. Exactly. It's my big brother Tion who is powerful. Beside Niro, Xiao Guai also chimed in. Xiao Guai was now more than a meter long. Its body was even larger than Yeyuro's. Of course, it could not be carried in one's arms. However, what didn't change was that this fellow was still as silly and adorable as before. His mouth was gnawing on the profound jade iron bamboo, and he kept eating without stopping. Tion had been in seclusion for the past few days, so Jean de Bayo and the rest had nothing to do, so they came to stroll around the streets. In order to ensure everyone's safety, Qiu Shan had Gao Han and 2 guards follow them, just in case. Jean de Bayo looked at the 2 girls who were going against him and chuckled. Boss, you're amazing. I'm not bad being your lackey. Qiu Ling, and Yeyuro both looked at Jean de Bayo with disdain. What an exquisite pendant. At this time, Tang Yuyu, who had been daydreaming, suddenly stopped in front of a grocery store. His eyes were attracted by a silver crystal pendant. This pendant was similar to the one-heart pendant on her chest. It reminded her of Tang 13. Tang Yuyu reached out to take it. Just as his hand landed, another hand appeared in front of him. When Tang Yuyu saw that someone was eyeing the silver pendant at the same time as him, he frowned slightly and suddenly raised his head. This is mine. Before Tang Yuyu could say anything, a cold voice sounded in his ear. Hmm. Tang Yu raised his head and saw the person's face clearly. He couldn't help but frown and said, "We got this at the same time. How can you say it's yours?" In front of her was a man, a very flirtatious man. He wore a pink dress, a pink shawl, and pink pants. What made people speechless was that he was holding a pink handkerchief in his hand. His face was thin and sharp, and he wore a thick layer of foundation. His long hair was shiny and greasy, as if it had been licked by a cow. Gulp, gulp. Jean de Bayo walked over at this time. When he saw the man's makeup, he couldn't help but swallow. He thought to himself, "This brother is too weird. Dressing like this, isn't he afraid of attracting wolves?" But the next moment, Jean de Bayo sensed the man's strength. His face stiffened and he gulped again. This weird-looking guy was actually in the first tier of true element. And looking at his age, he was about 20 years old. He was very young, 20 years old and already in the first tier of true element. This was too abnormal. This kind of talent was comparable to Rui Qinyu. F***CK. Suddenly, Jean de Bayo seemed to think of something and exclaimed in his heart, "This guy can't be the #1 genius of the Southern Mountain region, Luo Fun, right?" Just as Jean de Bayo's expression stiffened, the man spoke again. He pinched his thumb and middle finger and said, "If I say it's mine, then it's mine. If I want something, I will get it. If someone tries to rob me, that person must pay the price." Hearing this man's words, everyone was stunned. Not only was this guy dressed weirdly, but his mentality was even weirder. He wasn't being overbearing. He was being unreasonable. This guy is definitely Luo Fun. Jean de Bayo carefully looked at the man in front of him and confirmed his guess. His guess was correct. This unreasonable fellow was none other than Luo Fun, the top genius of the Southern Mountain Territory's genius ranking. The top 3 on the Southern Mountain region's genius ranking were Luo Fun, Dongfang Du, and Chu Shifeng. Among the 3, only Chu Shifeng was relatively normal. The other 2 were people who would cause the people of the Southern Mountain region to turn pale at the mere mention of their names. Dongfang Du was ruthless. His actions were ruthless and decisive, showing no mercy. Luo Fun, on the other hand, was even more terrifying than Dongfang Du. This guy was a complete freak. It was rumored that Luo Fun's sexual orientation was different from ordinary people. Sometimes he liked men, and sometimes he liked women. But this was not important. The most shocking rumor about Luo Fun was that he had once killed his entire clan with his own hands. Yes, he had killed his own clansmen, including his parents. As for the reason, no one knew. Therefore, in the eyes of the world, Luo Fun was someone who disregarded all rules. Among the younger generation of the Southern Mountain region, Luo Fun's name was even a taboo and was rarely mentioned. At this moment, Tang Yu frowned slightly. She wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Jean de Bayo, who quickly walked over. Jean de Bayo was afraid that Tang Yu would anger Luo Fun, so he quickly walked over and said with a polite smile, "Young master, this pendant is yours." Knowing the other party's identity, Jean de Bayo, of course, had to be cautious. Even in Tian Luo City, a person like Luo Fun could not be provoked, especially now that they did not have a powerful expert with them, so they could only endure for the time being. "You gave it to me?" Luo Fun smiled and picked up the silver pendant. He looked at it carefully, then suddenly raised his head and stared at Tang Yu with a pair of cold eyes. He sneered and said, "I don't think you understood what I just said. I said it's mine, so it's mine." Chapter 309. As soon as Luo Fun's voice trailed off, everyone shuddered, especially Jean de Bayo. His forehead couldn't help but be covered in beads of sweat. Perhaps others didn't know Luo Fun's real identity, but Jean de Bayo knew that he had poked a hornet's nest this time. Tang Yu glanced at Luo Fun with her beautiful eyes and said, "Boring." These days, Tang Yu had been waiting for Tang 13 and was in a bad mood. Now that she had run into such a rude and unreasonable person, there was no way she would be happy. Hearing Tang Yu say "boring," Jean de Bayo's chubby face froze. He felt his tailbone turn cold. "What did you just say?" Luo Fun smiled strangely. Then, he frowned and the thick foundation on his face pooled together. "I said you are boring." Tang Yu did not give in and said coldly. Qiu Ling, and the others also realized that something was wrong. Plus, Jean de Bao's level-up reaction had clearly indicated that the woman before them was not someone to be messed with. Boring. Luo Fen smiled and looked at Tang Yu. Coldness shot out his eyes, and he said, "You are very lucky. I am in a good mood today. You only need to leave the hand that stole my pendant." Luo Fen's face was full of contempt and magnanimity. In reality, he was being very generous to Tang Yu. If he was in a bad mood, Tang Yu would die. Leave a hand. Tang Yu was slightly startled, as if he had heard wrong. How could there be such an unreasonable person in this world? His delicate face couldn't help but reveal an angry expression as he coldly said, "I only touched the pendant, and it's not your pendant. If you want the pendant, you have to leave one of my hands. Does that mean that if I look at you, you will dig out my eyes? If I hear you, you will cut off my ears? How can there be such an unreasonable person in the world? You are unreasonable." It was rare for Tang Yu to speak so much at once. The main reason was that she was so angry that she became muddle-headed. She had never seen such an arrogant and despotic person. As soon as she finished speaking, everyone around her was stunned and looked at her in astonishment. Jean de Bao's heart skipped a beat. He knew that things were going to be troublesome this time. Something big was going to happen. Luo Fen was even more infamous than Dongfang, due among the younger generation of the Nanshan region. Angering him in public was like poking a hornet's nest. Jean de Bao's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. The most troublesome thing was that no one else was here. Nie Tian was not here, Qiu Shan was not here, Rui Qinyu was not here, and even the three lay brothers were not here. If Luo Fen were to act directly, who would be able to stop him? Jean de Bao took 2 steps back and quietly said to a guard beside Gao Han, "Quickly return to the mansion and invite Elderly here." Elderly? That guard was startled and asked doubtfully, "Is it that skinny old man?" This guard had seen Elderly before, but he thought the latter was just an ordinary old man. What was the use of inviting him? Jean de Bao's eyes darkened, and he growled, "Go if I tell you to go." "Yes." That guard answered and quickly ran away. Jean de Bao then sent another guard to Danwu City's Alchemist Guild to invite Gu Yi. After doing this, his expression calmed down a little. "You're courting death." At this moment, the muscles on Luo Fen's face twitched nonstop. His thick foundation trembled uncontrollably. A pair of deep eyes stared fixedly at Tang Yu. Finally, he squeezed out 3 words through gritted teeth. Luo Fen was about to go mad with anger. He was the dignified number 1 among the younger generation of the Nanshan region. Ever since he entered the genius ranking at the age of 15, everyone looked at him with envy and fear. He had never been ridiculed like today. Luo Fen felt a ball of anger burning in his chest, causing his chest to ache. What he was thinking at this moment was that killing Tang Yu in one move was simply letting her off easy. He wished he could kill the latter with 1,000 cuts for 300 days. Tang Yu felt the sharp killing intent from Luo Fen, and her pair of beautiful eyes couldn't help but flicker. In the next moment, Tang Yu's expression suddenly became painful. She suddenly felt an invisible force strangling her neck, causing her to be unable to breathe. Suddenly, her pretty face became flushed. "Little girl, you asked for this. Don't blame me." Luo Fen's gloomy voice sounded. The makeup on his face was piled up into clumps because of his ferociousness, making him look even more demonic. And waves of oppressive aura made Tang Yu breathless. Her delicate face was flushed red as if blood was about to seep out. "Ha ha! Little girl, this is the result of offending me, Luo Fen." Luo Fen enjoyed Tang Yu's painful appearance very much. He actually laughed sinisterly. Luo Fen. When the surrounding people heard Luo Fen's name, they were all suddenly stunned. Then, they whispered to each other, their faces full of horror. "Luo Fen. He's actually Luo Fen. No wonder he's so rude and unreasonable. He actually wanted to kill people in the street." Killing people in the street is nothing. I heard that this Luo Fen even killed his own parents. Is there anyone in this world that he doesn't dare to kill? I know that little girl. She seems to be from the City Lord's mansion. City Lord Nie Tian is not a person who can be trifled with. I heard that even the red-clothed great elder of the Alchemist Guild, Great Master Gu Yi, is brothers with City Lord Nyetian. That's right. Luo Fan actually dared to attack the people around City Lord Nyetian. If these two were to form a grudge, Tian Luo City would have a good show. The surrounding crowd's discussion entered Luo Fan's ears, causing him to frown slightly. He had naturally heard of the name Nyetian, the city lord of Tian Luo City, and also the organizer of the Dragon Blood Martial Meet. Recently, because of the Dragon Blood Stone and the Dragon Blood Martial Meet, Nyetian's name was in the limelight. In the entire southern mountain region, he had become a household name. In addition to the fact that Nyetian was cooperating with Gu Yi and the Yuan Chamber of Commerce, it caused his reputation to rise to another level. However, other people were afraid of Nyetian, but Luo Fan was not the slightest bit afraid. At this moment, not only did he not let go, but he also secretly increased the pressure of his aura. Tang Yuyu's small face turned from red to purple, from purple to black, as though he was about to die. With Luo Fan's strength, killing Tang Yuyu was as easy as flipping his hand. However, he did not do so because he enjoyed the process of killing, and even more so, he enjoyed the process of making people pay a painful price. Sister Yuyu. At this time, seeing that Tang Yuyu was being controlled, a clear voice suddenly sounded. It was Nyeyuro. Wind reversal. Nyeyuro's petite figure leaped high into the air, her clear voice shouting out. She struck out with her palm, and a strong killing intent appeared in the air, condensing into a visible wind blade that attacked Luo Fan. Roa, ninth sister. Young miss. Seeing that it was Nyeyuro who attacked, three voices cried out at the same time. It was Qiuling, Jean Debeo, and Gao Han. No one had expected that it would be Nyeyuro who attacked first. Nyeyuro was one of the people that Nyetian cared about the most. If anything happened to her, Nyetian would definitely poke a hole in the sky. Chapter 310. Luo Fan attacked Nyeyuro aggressively, not holding back just because the latter was a little girl. Nyeyuro was only at the second-level origin spirit realm, while Luo Fan was at the first-level true essence realm. The difference between the two was a full 3 great realms. This kind of difference in strength was not something that any talent or martial skill could make up for. Even a casual wave from Luo Fan was enough to kill any manifestation realm martial practitioner, much less a second-level origin spirit realm martial practitioner like Nyeyuro. Without a doubt, if Nyeyuro was hit by a casual move from Luo Fan, she would definitely die. At this critical moment, something strange happened. Green Qilin spiked armor. Nyeyuro was still in the air when she suddenly felt danger. She shouted softly, and instantly, her body flashed with a green light. Countless green spikes shot out and attacked Luo Fan. Luo Fan hadn't imagined that Nyeyuro would have such a move up her sleeves. His brow furrowed, and he had no choice but to split his concentration for a moment. His body shook slightly, and the blue spike phantom seemed to sink into his body like a clay ox sinking into the sea, but there was no movement at all. In that critical moment, Nyeyuro had used the green Qilin spiked armor to attack. The green Qilin spiked armor was snatched by Nyetian from the 7th Emperor's Palace Sheng, and he gave it to Nyeyuro as a little toy. Today, it was finally put to use. A single attack from the green Qilin spiked armor was equivalent to a giant spirit realm martial practitioner's attack. To a true essence realm martial practitioner like Luo Fan, it was nothing more than a drizzle. It could not cause any damage at all. Luo Fan was too careless and did not take Nyeyuro seriously at all. Otherwise, if he was slightly more serious, even if Nyeyuro activated the green Qilin spiked armor, she would not be able to block his attack. Before Nyeyuro's figure landed from the air, a chubby figure suddenly shot up from below her. Oh, the chubby figure was none other than Pichio Little Guai. The little fellow looked clumsy, but when it suddenly became angry, its speed was extremely fast. With a strange cry in the air, it attacked Luo Fan like a bolt of black and white lightning. The next moment, Luo Fan let out a painful cry. He looked carefully and found that Bab had bitten his wrist. Crack! A clear sound of bones breaking resounded. With one bite, Bab broke Luo Fun's wrist. Then, a thin layer of ice suddenly formed on Luo Fun's wrist. In the blink of an eye, his entire arm was frozen. Luo Fun felt pain in his wrist, and the aura in his body dissipated. The pressure he exerted on Tang Yuyu instantly disappeared, and Tang Yuyu took a few steps back and nearly fell. Xiao Ling rushed forward to support Tang Yuyu. The latter's face was flushed, and he was panting heavily. "Little bastard, you're courting death." Luo Fun was enraged. With a jerk of his arm, a powerful force gushed out, shattering the layer of ice on his arm and sending little Guai flying. "Ow!" Bab howled miserably and was sent flying like a rubber ball. After landing on the ground, it rolled a few times and got up immediately. Surprisingly, it was unscathed. However, it looked at Luo Fun with two dark circles under its eyes, as if it had been greatly wronged. Jean de Bayo was completely stunned by the scene that unfolded before his eyes. He had never expected that Bab, a foodie who only knew how to act cute, would be so powerful. After all, Luo Fun was a powerhouse of the true energy realm. Just now, Bab had broken Luo Fun's wrist with one bite. Then, it was hit by Luo Fun directly, but it was not injured at all. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Jean de Bayo would never have believed it. Holy crap! Why are all the things around our boss so powerful? Even a big fat cat is so terrifying. Jean de Bayo couldn't help but exclaim in his mind. Luo Fun was completely enraged. A gust of true energy gushed out of his body, and his broken wrist was healed in an instant. Damn you! Luo Fun looked at the people in front of him with bloodshot eyes. He was on the verge of going crazy. He was the #1 genius in the Nanshan territory. He had never been fooled like this before. "Linger, you guys go first." Jean de Bayo took a step forward. At this moment, he couldn't step back even if he was facing a demon or a ghost. Gao Han also came to himself. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and clenched his fists. Then, he took a step forward and stood in front of Luo Fun. Of course, Gao Han didn't want to face an opponent like Luo Fun. However, he had no other choice. If he retreated now, he would lose his position as the commander of the guards of Tianluo City, and he would also lose his life. Furthermore, even if he fled now, with Luo Fun's viciousness, she would definitely not let him go. Since he didn't have a choice, he might as well brace himself and go up. "With just you two ants?" Luo Fun swept a cold glance over Jean de Bayo and Gao Han, his eyes full of contempt. Jean de Bayo had the strength of the 7th level origin spirit realm, and Gao Han was merely at the 9th level of the manifestation realm. For the two of them to want to block Luo Fun, it was no different from a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It was absolutely impossible. Luo Fun. Jean de Bayo didn't retreat at this moment. Instead, he suddenly laughed strangely and cursed. "You're a piece of trash who has no one to feed you. A dangerous beast like you shouldn't have been let out." Gao Han was stunned by Jean de Bayo's side, thinking that he had heard wrongly. Wasn't Jean de Bayo courting death by suddenly saying something like this at this moment? "Fatty, say it again." Luo Fun was stunned. His bloodshot eyes stared fixedly at Jean de Bayo, practically spitting fire. A venomous and cold voice came out his throat. "So what if I say it again? You're a piece of trash who has no one to feed you." Facing Luo Fun's towering rage, not only was Jean de Bayo not afraid, he instead smiled strangely and said, "What are you looking at me like that for? Did I say something wrong? If a piece of trash like you were my son, I'd definitely hang you up and beat you every day. Little fatty, you're looking for..." Luo Fun was immediately enraged. Veins actually bulged out on his face that was covered with thick foundation. He wished that he could torture the fatty in front of him for 100 days and grind his bones to dust. Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Jean de Bayo. "You're very unconvinced?" Jean de Bayo smiled sinisterly and said, "This young master has seen many people like you who look arrogant on the outside but feel inferior on the inside. Don't you just have a bit of strength? Don't you think that you're very awesome, that you're the only awesome one in the world. Wake up, hurry up, and slap yourself twice. Then take a piss and take a good look at yourself. You're just a lousy piece of trash who is worse than a black bear when standing up, and worse than a caterpillar when lying down. It's fine if you're behaving atrociously at home and showing off your might, but you even came out to make a fool of yourself outside. I really don't know where your confidence comes from. Jean DeBeo scolded to his heart's content, then laughed out loud and said, "The feeling of scolding a fool is really F***ing satisfying." Jean DeBeo naturally knew that Luo Fan had once personally killed his own clansmen, and that included his own parents. He wanted to make use of this point to thoroughly infuriate Luo Fan. At this time, if Luo Fan was given a bit of time to think, Jean DeBeo and the others would all be dead. It had to be said that Jean DeBeo's scolding was too satisfying. It was to his heart's content. At this moment, apart from Jean DeBeo himself, everyone present was stunned on the spot, completely unaware of what was going on. The surrounding crowd had never imagined that a fatty would suddenly jump out and bombard Luo Fan with his words, almost causing him to shit his pants. Luo Fan. The person he was scolding was Luo Fan, the taboo of the younger generation in the South Mountain region, so much so that some people couldn't help but shudder at the mention of this name. Now, this taboo figure was actually scolded to the point where he stood like a wooden man, unable to even let out a fart. Chapter 3:11. Luo Fan was completely dumbfounded by Jean DeBeo's scolding. He felt as if all the blood in his body was flowing in reverse. Every inch of his skin and every bone was burning with pain. He could only inhale and exhale. He was like a volcano that was about to erupt. At that moment, he was thinking that he must not kill the fatty in front of him so easily. He must slowly torture him to death. He must cut him into pieces, boil him, fry him, dismember him, and finally grind his bones to ashes. Only then would he be able to dispel the hatred in his heart. However, Jean DeBeo did not stop there. He looked at Luo Fan, who looked like he was about to spit **T out of his eyes. He put on a smug expression and said, "What? You look like you're not convinced. Get your whole family to come and beat me up. Oh, dash. I almost forgot. You don't have a whole family anymore. Your whole family was killed by you. How about it? Isn't the feeling of killing your own family exciting and satisfying?" Ah! Suddenly, Luo Fan roared in anger. He was like a wild beast that had suddenly lost control and exploded. Killing his own family was Luo Fan's reverse scale. He was not allowed to mention it to anyone. As the saying goes, touching a reverse scale means death. Jean DeBeo actually dared to say this in front of everyone. This time, even if God came, he would not be able to save him. Go to hell. With a roar, Luo Fan could no longer control the anger in his heart. He suddenly slapped out with his palm. Instantly, the space within a few hundred meters tightened. Everyone watching felt a chill in their hearts at the same time. They could not withstand the surging momentum and retreated. Many of them vomited blood, their faces as pale as paper. Young Master Jean, watch out. At this critical moment, Gao Han did not care about his own safety. The frost snake spear appeared in his hand, and he stabbed it diagonally. An ice flower appeared and instantly turned into an extremely cold ice blade, attacking Luo Fan. Get lost. Luo Fan had completely gone mad. He waved his hand, and a majestic force pressed down on Gao Han. Gao Han's all-out attack was completely useless before Luo Fan. Not only was it broken, but he was also sent flying by the tyrannical force. He let out a wretched cry and fell to the ground, his body covered in blood. He could no longer get up. Gao Han's body was covered in blood. The power unleashed by a true energy realm martial artist was not something that an ordinary all-creation martial artist could withstand. If not for the fact that Luo Fan's attention was focused on Jean DeBeo, Gao Han would have lost his life with a wave of his hand. Luo Fan's outstretched hand made a grabbing motion in the air, and in an instant, a terrifying force pressed down on Jean DeBeo from all directions. Jean DeBeo's body was actually deformed by the pressure of this force. His body contorted, and it seemed as though even his bones were about to be crushed. Jean DeBeo opened his mouth wide, but no sound came out. His fat body turned red and purple, as if he would explode into a pool of blood in the next moment. Debeo. Xiaoling, Er's throat went dry when she saw this. Tang Yuyu, Nieyuro, and the others all felt their hearts leap up to their throats, afraid to see such a tragic scene. Damned fatty, say it again. Aren't you very talkative? Say it again for me to hear. Luofen did not have the intention to kill Jean Debeo immediately. He felt that killing the fatty in front of him just like that would be letting him off too easily. He would definitely not let someone who had humiliated him die so easily. Dog, bastard, if you have the guts, kill me. Jean Debeo's entire body was in so much pain that it felt like it was going to split open, but he still did not surrender. Do you want to die? The corner of Luo Fun's eyes twitched a few times. He smiled coldly and said, I won't let you die so easily. Seeing how ruthless Luo Fun was, the surrounding people all backed off. Just the cold and ruthless aura that was being emitted from his body was not something that ordinary people could withstand. Bastard, let him go. Suddenly, Xiaoling let out a heart-wrenching scream. She immediately took out her spiritual snake illusory sword, and a water screen appeared in the air, blasting towards Luo Fun. Aunt, you're courting death. Luofen did not even look at Xiaoling. He casually raised his hand, and a gust of air whistled out. Ah! Xiaoling let out a miserable scream and was directly sent flying. Her body smashed onto the ground, and a 5 to 6 meter long trail of blood appeared. Her entire body was covered in blood, and she immediately fainted. Fortunately, she had a 3rd-level spiritual formation robe on her, which deflected part of the elemental energy attack. Otherwise, with a casual wave of Luo Fun's hand, she would have died without a doubt. Ling Tang Yuyu saw Xiaoling Er's hand, and he went forward to hug her with a sorrowful expression. Sister Ling Nieyuro saw Xiaoling Er's body covered in blood, and she immediately cried out in fear. There were quite a few giant spirit realm martial artists in the crowd, but no one dared to stop them. They were facing Luo Fun, and anyone who dared to interfere would be courting death. Big Brother Nietian, come quickly. The bad guy injured Sister Ling. Nieyuro was still young, only 9 years old. She burst into tears and shouted Nietian's name. Unfortunately, at this moment, Nietian was in seclusion. If Nietian saw this scene, he would definitely go crazy. He would definitely not hesitate to kill Luo Fun with a soul-severing seal. Nietian. Hearing Nieyuro shouting Nietian's name, Luo Fun sneered and said arrogantly, he better not show up. If he does, he will also die. Although Nietian's name had been in the limelight in the 3,000 Lesser Worlds recently, Luo Fun did not care about him at all. In Luo Fun's eyes, Nietian was just a little loach that had gotten lucky and coincidentally became the Lord of Heaven Luo City, coincidentally cooperated with Gu Yi and the Yuan Chamber Commerce, and then coincidentally organized the Dragon Blood Martial Gathering. However, he did not think that when so many coincidences came together, was it still a coincidence? How dare you? Heaven Luo City is not a place for you to behave atrociously. Just as Luo Fun was laughing maniacally, a powerful voice rang out, and a powerful saber aura whistled over. The saber aura traversed hundreds of meters, condensing into a huge saber aura, and pressed down on Luo Fun. Luo Fun frowned slightly. He sensed that the incoming saber aura was not weak, but then he laughed disdainfully. The saber aura is not weak, but it is far from enough to hurt me. Just as he finished speaking, Luo Fun's palm surged with energy, and with a palm strike, the shadow of the palm whistled out and swallowed the saber aura. The surrounding crowd was affected by the palm strike and could not help but retreat. Those who were too close and could not retreat in time were hit by the dissipating force of the palm strike and vomited blood on the spot. At this time, a frantic figure descended from the sky. It was none other than Qiu Shan. Uncle Qiu Shan. Nieyuro saw that it was Qiu Shan and cried even harder. Pointing at Luo Fun, she said, he is a bad person. He injured Sister Ling and wanted to kill Brother Fatty. Qiu stepped forward, shielding Nye behind him. His cold gaze swept around, and when he saw the bloodied Ling and the heavily injured Gao Han, his face filled with killing intent. Chapter 3:12. Luo Fen looked at Qiu, who had suddenly arrived, and was stunned for a moment. Immediately sensing the latter's strength, his face filled with undisguised contempt as he said in a cold voice, "You want me to let him go? You think you can do it? You're just an ant?" Qiu was only a 5th-layer giant, while Luo Fen was a 1st-layer true element. It was normal for the latter to not put him in his eyes. The most terrifying thing about a true element boundary cultivator was their true qi. True qi was highly condensed from the body's yuan qi and could change its form at will. Even the giant spirit body of a giant spirit cultivator would find it difficult to break the defense of true qi. He's a true element boundary cultivator. Be careful. Jean DeBeo looked in Qiu direction and said with great difficulty. Qiu saw that Jean DeBeo's body had turned red and purple. Obviously, his blood flow was blocked. If he could not catch his breath, his life would definitely be in danger. He immediately said, "DeBeo, don't speak." He's about to die. So what if I let him speak a few more words? Luo Fen smiled coldly and said in a chilly voice, "Let me tell you, no matter who comes today, this fatty is dead for sure, and I will slowly torture him to death in front of everyone." "Bastard!" Qiu roared cold and waved his hand, signaling everyone to step back. Tang Yu quickly took Ling away while Nye had Xiao Guai pull the unconscious Gao Han over. Luo Fen saw Qiu fighting intent, but his mouth curved into a sinister smile, and he said with a face full of ridicule, "You want to fight me? You overestimate yourself." The gap between a 1st-layer true element boundary and a 5th-layer giant was like the distance between heaven and earth. It was no exaggeration to say that a single move from Luo Fen could kill Qiu. Qiu frowned slightly. Of course, he knew that he was not the opponent of the person in front of him. Just now, his attack was easily broken by the other party, which was enough to prove his strength. But he did not expect that this guy who looked like he was in his 20s was actually a true element boundary cultivator. But at this moment, he could not retreat. No matter what, he had to save Jean DeBeo. Desert Saber is edgeless. Saber Mark has no path. Thinking of this, Qiu no longer hesitated. With a roar, the Desert Blade edgeless giant spirit real body appeared. The huge blade, which was dozens of meters long, exuded a chilling and domineering blade aura. With a slash, rolling blade aura whizzed out, and the ground was directly swept up by a meter-thick layer of soil. Everyone retreated, opening up a space of several hundred meters. However, the surrounding buildings suffered a calamity. They were affected by the Saber Chi and were on the verge of collapsing. With the giant spirit true body and the power of the Saber Heart, even a level 6 giant spirit warrior would find it hard to resist. Unfortunately, Luo Fen was a true element boundary cultivator. In the eyes of others, Qiu slash was extremely domineering, but in his eyes, it was just a child's play, not even worth mentioning. "Is this all you've got? What a mess." Luo Fen smiled coldly. He stretched out his palm, and a gigantic blackwood hand appeared in the air. The might of this palm was vast and unstoppable. Boom! The terrifying pressure of the blackwood hand came crashing down, and all of Qiu saber chi disappeared without a trace in an instant. Pong! A fierce chi blasted over, and Qiu entire body was sent flying. Still in the air, he spat out a mouthful of blood. After landing, he staggered back a few steps and almost fell. Pooh! Qiu felt the blood in his chest surge up, and then he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His entire face was as white as paper, and he was barely able to stand by relying on the Desert Saber edgeless in his hand. The power of a true element boundary cultivator's attack was fierce and powerful. It was not something Qiu could withstand. Just now, Luo Fen had not used his full strength, not even his giant spirit true body. If not for that, Qiu would already be a corpse. "Uncle Qiu, Seeing Chioshan injured, Nyeyuro cried out in grief, crying even harder. "Miss Yuro, don't come over!" Chioshan shouted and stretched out his palm, motioning for Nyeyuro to stay away. Luo Fun's strength was too strong, and Chioshan was far from being able to contend with him. If Nyeyuro were to approach, she might not even be able to withstand this aura. "Oomph." Luo Fun smiled coldly, and his face suddenly became sinister. Step by step, he walked over and said coldly, "With such little strength, you dare to clamor in front of me? For ants like you, I can step on them however I want. You won't even have the strength to fight back." Luo Fun approached step by step, and with each step, the aura on his body grew stronger, forcing Chioshan to retreat again and again. Finally, unable to withstand the powerful aura, he fell to the ground. "I'll trample you to death now." Luo Fun suddenly stepped forward, and with one step, he stepped towards Chioshan's chest. If this foot landed, Chioshan would undoubtedly die. At this critical moment, a sudden change occurred. "Oh, ho, oh!" 3 tiger roars resounded, and immediately 3 phantom tiger heads appeared, carrying a fierce gust of wind, pouncing towards Luo Fun. Feeling the incoming aura, Luo Fun frowned slightly. His pink dress was lifted, and he couldn't help but be enraged. Immediately, he slapped out with his palm, and it was the giant blackwood palm again. Pung, pung, pung. 3 consecutive explosions, the 3 phantom tiger heads, each stronger than the last, bombarded the giant blackwood palm, and actually forced Luo Fun several steps back. In the next moment, 3 giant figures landed on the ground. Each of them was more than 2 meters tall, and they looked exactly the same, with little braids on their heads. They were the 3 Lay brothers. The 3 of them had grown up together and cultivated together, so their cooperation was flawless and tacit. When they suddenly attacked, they were actually able to gain the upper hand by a show of strength and force Luo Fun to retreat. The aura on Luo Fun's body was broken, and Jean de Bayo, who had been under the pressure of his aura, was instantly freed. Jean de Bayo was very shrewd, and with a roll, he retreated behind the 3 Lay brothers. "Uncle Chioshan, are you all right?" Stabilizing himself, Jean de Bayo hurriedly helped Chioshan up and asked nervously. Luo Fun's strength was too strong. One move, just one move, and Chioshan couldn't fight back at all. Chioshan struggled to stand up, and there was no fear in his eyes as he looked at Luo Fun, only anger and resentment. He hated himself for being too weak, and in front of Luo Fun, he was like a 3-year-old child. "Big brother Chioshan, you guys step down. Leave this little bastard to us 3 brothers." Lei-san, who had a carefree look on his face. He did not take Luo Fun seriously at all. "Third brother, this person defeated Commander Chioshan with 1 move. His strength is immeasurable, and we cannot underestimate him." Lei Dahu became even more cautious, and his eyes were fixed on Luo Fun as he transmitted a message to Lei Sanhu. Luo Fun looked at the 3 brothers who suddenly appeared, and couldn't help but laugh. The corners of his eyes revealed undisguised contempt, and he said with a smile, "With just you 3 little kittens? Could it be that the people in the famous Tianluo city were all trash? Not a single one of them can fight, and all of them are 3-legged cats." Luo Fun only needed a glance to know that the 3 Lay brothers were only at the 4th, 5th, or 6th level of the giant spirit realm. This kind of strength was indeed a great deterrent to ordinary martial artists. Chapter 3:13. At the same time, Heaven Luo City Lord Residence. Nye Tian sat cross-legged in his room. His entire body was drenched in sweat, and his forehead was beaded with sweat. He looked both pained and excited. Even the muscles on his face were twitching uncontrollably. 3 days of cultivation in the chaotic original coffin was equivalent to a month of cultivation for other martial artists. In 3 days, Nye Tian had completely refined the blood chi stored in his essence meridians. The blood chi evaporated from his body and formed a faint mist above his head. He exuded a bloodthirsty and violent aura. At this moment, he was trying to break through to the giant spiritual realm, and it was the most crucial stage. In his soul dimension, the surging blood chi was like a ferocious beast. It attacked Nietion's body ferociously. The sudden, intense pain was unbearable, and he could not help but scream. Nietion was not the kind of person who could not withstand pain. However, the pain he was experiencing now was not something ordinary people could bear. The giant spiritual realm was about forming the giant spiritual true body. The giant spiritual true body was tens or even hundreds of times larger than the original body of the primordial spirit. This was a process of rapid expansion. The pain during this process was unimaginable if one did not experience it personally. Awesome. In the next second, the 9 extreme chaos beast in the chaotic original coffin throbbed. Immediately, Nietion's body felt like it was about to be completely torn apart. The immense pain made his face contort. Nietion knew that the 9 extreme chaos beast was starting to form the giant spiritual true body. Following that, the power of heaven and earth within 100 meters of the 9 extreme chaos beast underwent a strange change. It was as though space was collapsing, and a powerful whirlpool formed in the 9 extreme chaos beast body. The corpse demon lord and the phantom snow fox had already left the chaotic original coffin. The process of breaking through to the giant spiritual realm was violent and violent. Even the corpse demon lord might not be able to withstand it. Roar! Within the chaotic original coffin, the 9 extreme chaos beast let out a deafening roar. It reverberated in all directions, as though it was being summoned from ancient times. The 9 extreme chaos beast body shook violently. Immediately, it released layers of scarlet halos. These halos were filled with the spiritual power of heaven and earth. At this moment, Nietion felt a powerful tearing force, as if it wanted to tear his flesh and soul into pieces. His breathing quickened, and he felt as if there was a huge rock weighing 10,000 kilograms on his chest. Every breath he took was filled with indescribable pain. A roar that sounded like a roar rang out, followed by an even more terrifying pain that made Nietion want to tear himself apart. It was a deep despair, as if there was only endless darkness before him, and he couldn't take another step forward. I must hold on. I must become stronger. I must protect the people around me. Nietion growled, his will as firm as iron. At this moment, no pain or despair could stop him. Pain and despair could destroy the body and tear apart the soul, but they could never drown a strong will. The pain continued, but Nietion gradually calmed down. Slowly, his breathing steadied, and his expression became firm and calm. After an unknown period of time, a circle of scarlet light suddenly surged out from Nietion's body and enveloped his entire body, causing him to appear strange and mysterious. At the same time, in the soul space, the 9 extreme chaos beast primordial spirit was shrouded in a scarlet halo. The scarlet halo spread out circle by circle, and the 9 extreme chaos beast body expanded rapidly. Once the giant spirit true body was condensed, it would definitely be earth-shattering. Yet Tion clenched his teeth, and his nerves were tense, not daring to relax for a moment. This was the most crucial stage of condensing the giant spirit true body, and there must be no mistakes. In the blink of an eye, the 9 extreme chaos beast body was already nearly 100 meters in size. Nietion was incomparably shocked, and his expression stiffened. The giant spirit true body that had just condensed was actually 100 meters in size. It was really terrifying. Generally speaking, the giant spirit true body that a martial artist had just condensed was 10 meters in size. As the martial artist's strength increased, the giant spirit true body would also slowly grow. The 9 extreme chaos beast primordial spirit in Nietion's previous life, when it had just condensed the giant spirit true body, was only about 40 meters, which was already very heaven-defying. For instance, the 9th level chaos beast to be able to reach 100 meters the moment it condensed was truly heaven-defying. After a while, the nine-extremity chaos beast suddenly throbbed and suddenly turned into a black hole that swallowed everything. In an instant, it swallowed up the scarlet-red halo in the surroundings. Roar! The moment the scarlet halo disappeared, the nine-extreme chaos beast opened its blood-red eyes and let out a deafening roar. Right now, the ninth extreme chaos beast was 100 meters long. Its entire body was huge and majestic like a mountain. It looked majestic and imposing. The most terrifying thing was that the ninth extreme chaos beast was emitting a mysterious and powerful aura. It was domineering and dignified, as though it was a peerless emperor that had walked out from the primordial world. Just one look at it would cause one to have the urge to kneel down and worship it. This was an imposing manner, an incomparable, imposing manner. A sovereign descends upon the world. Who dares to contend with him? The nine-extreme chaos beast was a supreme primordial spirit that surpassed the nine extreme beasts. At this moment, the aura he displayed was unparalleled and unparalleled. The primal chaos had descended upon the world, and all living beings had submitted to it. This was the conclusion that the nine thearchs, the Snow Empress, had obtained from the Heaven Realm Stone of Destiny, the Heaven-Splitting Saint Stone. If he could personally feel the imposing manner of a nine-extremity chaos beast, he would definitely know that it was true. Hey, after a while, the nine-extremity chaos beast body shrunk rapidly and returned to its original size. It let out a weird cry. At this moment, Nietian knew that he had succeeded in breaking through to the giant's spiritual realm. Unable to hide the excitement in his heart, Nietian stood up and laughed. His entire body was like a sharp sword that had been unsheathed, showing off its edge. Master, congratulations on advancing to the giant's spiritual realm. The corpse demon lord was also very excited. He jumped on Nietian's shoulder and was very emotional. Of course, the corpse demon lord could feel the powerful aura emanating from the nine-extremity chaos beast. Just based on this aura alone, it was more than a few times more terrifying than Nietian's nine-extremity beast primordial spirit in his previous life. Just now, when a nine-extremity chaos beast condensed its giant spiritual true body, it only roared once, and it made the corpse demon lord have the urge to prostrate and worship it. The nine-extremity chaos beast is indeed an existence that surpasses the rank 9 supreme martial artist. Nietian could not help but be excited. He immediately let the corpse demon lord and the phantom snow fox return to the chaotic origin coffin. Returning to the chaotic origin coffin, the corpse demon lord could not help but swallow his saliva when he saw the same silly little nine in front of him. Even though little nine was still as adorable and silly as before, with a harmless appearance, but the majestic aura that he had just released was absolutely not a joke. The corpse demon lord stood beside little nine and felt his heart tremble. What kind of dogsh asterisk T luck does Nietian have to actually be able to awaken such a powerful primordial spirit? It's even more powerful than the nine-extremity beast in my previous life. The corpse demon lord could not help but say in his heart. Hey, little nine seemed to sense that something was wrong with the corpse demon lord. It let out a cry, stepped forward, and directly pinched the spirit-devouring rat's tail. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The corpse demon lord cried out in panic. Although little nine had condensed its giant spiritual true body, its interest in teasing the spirit-devouring rat did not diminish. The poor corpse demon lord was going to have a miserable life in the future. Let's take a look at the Star Soul Tablet first. At this moment, Nietian suddenly thought of something, and the Star Soul Tablet appeared in front of him. The moment he saw the Star Soul Tablet, Nietian's entire body froze. He was petrified. Chapter 314. Nietian stared blankly at the Star Soul Steel for a long time. Only after a long while did he snap out of his daze and murmur, I didn't expect the Star Soul Steel to be so powerful. It only took me 3 days to inscribe 3 Star Souls. What a freak. 3 Star Souls flickered on the Star Soul Tablet. Silver Moon Ghostly Killer black tortoise shadow, and green with 7-kill seal. Nietian could sense that the star souls were filled with star energy. It seemed even more terrifying than the star souls he inscribed on the chaotic origin coffin. If Nietian were to inscribe 3 star souls, it would take him at least 3 days to inscribe each one. 3 astral souls meant 9 days. If all 9 days were used for cultivation, it would be equivalent to 3 months of bitter cultivation. Now that he had the Star Soul tablet, everything was much simpler. It saved Nietian a lot of time. The Star Soul tablet can hold up to 4 Star Souls. Not bad. Nietian looked at the size of the Star Soul tablet. It could hold 4 Star Souls. 4 Star Souls was enough for Nietian. Nietian carefully sensed the silver moon ghostly killer, black tortoise shadow, and green with 7-kill seal. The black tortoise shadow's pattern was a giant tortoise. It should be a defensive star soul. The silver moon ghostly killer's pattern was a crescent moon ghost blade. The greenwood 7-kill seal's pattern was a greenwood bramble with a sharp aura that could pierce the soul. Judging from the aura, the greenwood 7-kill seal's power seemed to be stronger than the silver moon ghostly killer. Very good. Nietian's lips curled up in satisfaction. Now that my strength is at the first level of the giant spirit realm, and with the Star Soul tablet's ability to continuously inscribe star souls, the champion of the Dragon Blood Martial Gathering is mine. With the strength of the first level of the giant spirit realm and 3 star souls, Nietian could face any cultivator below the 9th level of the giant spirit realm. He could even put up a fight against a true energy realm cultivator. Of course, this was under the condition that he did not use the 3 seals of the God of War. If he used it, he was confident that he could kill a first-level true energy realm cultivator. What's more, apart from a 9-level Chaos Beast, there was also the Corpse Demon King and the Phantom Snow Fox in his chaotic original coffin. Even if Corpse Luo Demon Monarch only had the body of a spirit-devouring rat, his current strength was still at the true element boundary. As for the Phantom Snow Fox, although it wasn't very strong, its speed was extremely fast. At crucial moments, it could also play a crucial role. At this moment, Nietian suddenly thought of something, and a wisp of light appeared in his eyes. With a thought, he opened the next page of the original Star Soul book. Once his strength advanced to the giant soul realm, he would be able to open the next page of the Star Soul original tome. According to Nietian's estimation, the next page of the original Codex of Astral Souls should be a 3rd rank Astral Soul. A 3rd ranked Astral Soul. Upon seeing the next page, Nietian's eyes widened in shock. On the 5th page of the original Codex of Astral Souls was a rank 3 Astral Soul. A rank 2 Star Soul could already instantly kill a powerhouse like Gong Feiyu, so the power of a rank 3 Star Soul could definitely fight against a true element realm martial artist. Thinking of this, Nietian couldn't help but be overjoyed, and he couldn't help but chuckle. If he could inscribe a 3rd ranked Astral Soul on the Star Soul tablet, then the upcoming Dragon Blood Martial meet would be absolutely safe. Just as Nietian was about to study the 3rd ranked Astral Soul, he suddenly sensed a figure rushing over from outside the courtyard. "Urxi, what happened? Why are you so flustered?" Nietian walked out of the room, and when he saw that the person was the residence's guard, Wang Urxi, he asked with a faint smile. Nietian was currently in a good mood, and he had always treated the people around him with leniency, even if it was a servant or a guard. Lord Castellan." When Wang Urxi saw Nietian, it was as if he had seen his own father or grandfather. He was so excited that he staggered and almost fell down. Something happened. When Nietian saw Wang Urxi's reaction, his heart suddenly sank. He already knew that something was wrong. Wang Urxi fiercely swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said while gasping for breath, Lord Castellan, someone wants to kill eldest miss, 9th sister." Nietian's expression changed, and his entire person suddenly emitted a towering aura. He naturally knew that the eldest Miss Wang Urxi was talking about was Nieyuro. Because Nieyuro was Nietian's sister, everyone in the Castellan residence addressed her as eldest Mississippi Lord Castellan. When Wang Erxi saw Niet Tian fly into a rage, the aura emitted from his body actually caused him to feel a chill. Behind Niet Tian's back, a pair of huge wings formed by sword shadows appeared, completely unfolded. It was actually 5 to 6 meters long. It was the proud sword heavenly wings. "Bring me there." He directly lifted Wang Erxi in his hands, and with a roar, his wings shook, his figure rose from the ground, and in the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared. Wang Erxi was the guard that Jean de Bayo had sent to find Old Li. But unexpectedly, he actually found his way to Niet Tian's side and coincidentally met Niet Tian coming out of closed-door training. At the same time, in another small courtyard in the Castellan residence, Old Li and Rui Qinyu were sitting quietly in the courtyard, when suddenly they saw a figure flying over the Castellan residence. Wings formed by sword shadows? Old Li suddenly stood up. He actually did not see the figure clearly, but had already guessed the identity of the other party, and said in shock, "It's Niet Tian's city lord. Isn't he in closed-door training? Why is he suddenly going out?" "Old Li, let's follow and take a look." Rui Qinyu also stood up. A trace of worry flashed across her face, and she said lightly, "After 3 days of dragon blood bathing, Rui Qinyu had completely controlled the power of blood in her body. At this moment, her face was crystal clear and red, completely not as pale as a few days ago. Moreover, the Alchemist Guild had sent over the dragon blood, so for the time being, she did not need to worry about the power of blood. "All right," Old Li agreed, and 2 figures flashed, flying in the direction of Niet Tian. On the main street of Tianluo City, Luo Fun and the 3 Lei brothers of the Lei family clashed head-on. "Big brother, why do you have to boost others' morale and diminish your own? I think this little B** TCH is just a stinky piece of trash, not worth mentioning." Lei Sanhu was hot-tempered and careless, so he ignored Lei Dahu's reminder and said with a smirk, being called a little B** TCH in front of everyone. Luo Fun was instantly enraged. The muscles at the corner of his eyes twitched, and suddenly he struck out a palm directly towards Lei Sanhu. Swoosh! When Luo Fun struck out with his palm, a ghost thorn vine appeared in the air, like a sharp arrow, whistling towards Lei Sanhu's chest. The ghost thorn vine was like a giant serpent covered in spikes, suddenly erupting with a murderous aura, tightening the space, making it hard for people to breathe. Lei Sanhu felt his entire body being oppressed. Even the circulation of his origin energy had slowed down. His expression changed, and the knife scar on his face became even more ferocious. "Third brother, watch out!" Lei Dahu and Lei Eru shouted at the same time when they saw Lei Sanhu in danger and immediately acted together. Boom! Boom! Chapter 315. Lei Sanhu was in danger. Lei Dahu and Lei Eru didn't have time to think. They activated their giant spirit true body and transformed into 2 30-meter tigers. The 2 ferocious tigers were about the same size, but their appearances were vastly different. Lei Dahu's spirit was a silver saber-toothed tiger. Its huge fangs were exposed outside its mouth like 2 sharp swords, exuding a murderous aura. Its body was silvery white, and there were faint yellow stripes on it, giving off a ferocious feeling of killing intent. Lei Eru's spirit was a purple thunder heavenly tiger. Its fur was purple, and its body flickered with purple lightning, giving it a violent appearance. The 2 of them revealed their giant spirit true body at the same time. The sudden burst of aura intimidated the crowd. Everyone couldn't help but retreat again. The area within a few thousand meters became a forbidden zone. The upcoming battle was bound to be intense. Anyone caught in the crossfire would be in deep trouble. Roar! Roar! The silver saber-toothed tiger and purple thunder heavenly tiger roared at the same time and extended their claws to block Lei Sanhu. Bang! Bang! The ghost brambles were stopped by the 2 tigers and couldn't advance any further. Die, you little bitch! Lei Sanhu let out a sigh of relief. Seeing that the timing was right, he roared and summoned his giant spirit true body. Lei Sanhu's giant spirit true body was also a giant tiger, the violent golden horn tiger. The violent golden horned tiger's giant spirit true body was covered in golden fur, and there was a yellow horn on its head. Roar! The violent golden horned tiger let out a loud roar towards the sky. The roar was like rolling thunder. It was overbearing. Soon after, it swooped down, and its huge golden horn was like a huge sword stabbing down diagonally. The golden horn suddenly revealed its sharpness. Golden flames appeared and wrapped around it, instantly forming a pillar of fire that pressed down on Luo Fun. The temperature of the surrounding air rose a few degrees due to the pillar of fire. Luo Fun felt a scorching and violent wave of air rushing down, and her face, which was covered in rouge, couldn't help but reveal a faint expression of surprise. He didn't expect that the three big guys would be stronger than ordinary cultivators. Especially when the three of them worked together, the power they could unleash was not to be underestimated. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Luo Fun suddenly roared angrily, and a cold, killing intent rose from the corners of his mouth. His body suddenly leaped up, and countless ghost thorns vines appeared behind him, and in the blink of an eye, they wrapped around his entire body. The bramble ghost vine wrapped around Luo Fun tightly, forming a huge sphere with a diameter of 20 to 30 meters. The huge spikes were exposed like a hedgehog, with its spikes erected. Oof! Lei Sanhu scoffed and roared. Lei Sanhu to hide in his shell. Facing the thorny sphere, not only did Lei Sanhu not back off, his aura rose once again as he slammed his fist toward the thorny sphere. Lei Sanhu laid in back. The golden Hao-Hao's chins lay and san. But to in Santa to lay to for lay, to come. Lay, lay for lay to say. Lei Sanhu's gigantic golden horn stabbed downwards, but it was as if he was stabbing into water. He couldn't exert any strength at all. His spirit was the violent golden horned tiger, which was a strength-type spirit among the bee spirits. It mainly relied on strength to win. At this moment, he could not use any strength at all. He was simply like a fish on someone's chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Bastard, prepare to die. Luo Fun's ear-piercing roar suddenly came from within the thorny ball. In the next moment, countless thorns suddenly pierced into the golden horn, and then the sound of a chainsaw pulling on a piece of wood could be heard. Luo Fun was going to cut off Lei Sanhu's golden horn. Lei Sanhu howled like a pig being slaughtered as he felt a piercing pain. Third brother, Lei Dahu and Lei Eru looked at each other, their faces pale. If Lei Sanhu's violent golden horn tiger's golden horn was cut off, would he still be alive? Bang! In the next moment, a clear sound resounded, and Lei Sanhu's golden horn was actually torn off. Lei Sanhu screamed and took a few steps back. When he touched his forehead again, there was a bloody hole there. The violent golden horn tiger's most powerful attack was its golden horn. Now that its golden horn was torn off, Lei Sanhu was basically half dead. Bastard, this is what you get for going against me, Luo Fun. Luo Feng's ferocious face appeared from within the thorny ball as he spoke insolently. The thorny ball that covered his entire body was his spirit, the dark thornwood. Actually, with Luo Fun's strength, he could have just killed Lei Sanhu, but he didn't. Instead, he chose to attack his enemy in an even crueler way. To him, killing people was no longer fun. The only fun he had was torturing his opponent, slowly torturing them to death. That was the only way to stimulate his numb nerves. Bastard, I'll kill you. Lei Dahu roared when he saw that Lei Sanhu was severely injured and in pain. The silver saber-toothed tiger's enormous body leaped into the air and came crashing down like a mountain. You're dead. In the face of Lei Dahu's all-out attack, Luo Fun smiled coldly. Immediately, countless ghost thorns vines stretched out from the thorny ball, condensing into two large hands in the air, and directly grabbed the two huge teeth of the silver saber-toothed tiger. Ha! You three brothers, one dumber than the other. Today, I'll turn you into a toothless tiger. Luo Fun was on the verge of insanity as he laughed crazily. The ghost vines that wrapped around the saber-toothed tiger suddenly tightened. In the next moment, there was a crisp crack. One of the silver, saber-toothed tiger's teeth was snapped in half. Blood sprayed into the air like a fountain. Big brother. Lei Eru was devastated when he saw this. The purple thunder heavenly tiger's enormous body shook, and multiple bolts of purple lightning lashed towards Luo from like steel whips. Even though he knew he wasn't his opponent, he still had to fight with his life on the line. Thousand Thorn Shadow. Luo didn't even bother to look at Lei Eru. The thorny ball suddenly swayed and extended. A giant black tree appeared behind him, waving its branches in the air like black tentacles. It was covered in thorns, emitting a bloody and violent aura. This was Luo Fun's original spirit, the Thorn Black Tree. This was the first time the Thorn Black Tree revealed its true form, and it was in the form of a giant spirit. Swoosh! The Thorn Black Tree suddenly swayed, and the air around it tightened, as if it was being pulled by an invisible force, about to split open at any time. Instantly, a terrifying and bloody aura permeated the air. Everyone felt an inexplicable fear in their hearts, as if they were about to fall to their knees and worship. In the next moment, the bramble black would suddenly shot out countless bramble ghost vines. Like thousands of dancing snakes, a black mass of vines bombarded Lei Eru. In a blink of an eye, Lei Eru's purple thunder heavenly tiger was entangled by countless ghost thorns, unable to move. Chapter 3:16. Roar. The purple thunder heavenly tiger let out a pained roar as the thorns of the ghost thorn vine penetrated deep into its body. Anyone who saw would be moved. At the same time, Lei Eru let out an extremely tragic cry as well. The clothes on his entire body were in tatters while numerous horrifying bloody wounds appeared on his body. Fresh blood dyed his entire body red, and he'd directly become a man of blood. The stench of blood permeated for hundreds of meters, and the atmosphere at the scene became extremely tragic. The blood-red scene in front of her aroused Luo Fun's bloodthirsty heart even more. Her face surged with cold, killing intent. She let out a ferocious roar. Her killing intent was awe-inspiring, and the thorny ghost vines in the air suddenly tightened. Lei Eru let out a hysterical scream. His entire body was squeezed into a small space, as if he would be squashed into meat paste in the next moment. Under these circumstances, if no one intervened, Lei Eru would die without a doubt. Luo Fun was too strong. Even if the three Lei brothers teamed up, they were no match for him. He could have easily killed the three Lei brothers, but he took pleasure in tormenting his opponents. It was as if only by seeing his opponents suffer would he be able to move his heart and do as he wished. The onlookers were already drenched in cold sweat. Some did not even dare to open their eyes to look at the scene in front of them. They had long heard that Luo Fun was a bloodthirsty and violent person, but they did not expect him to be this abnormal. Witnessing this scene made the onlookers tremble even more. At this moment, everyone's gazes towards Luo Fun were trembling, and they revealed a deep sense of fear and dread. Luo Fun's cold gaze swept across the crowd. This was the effect he wanted. He wanted everyone to fear him and not dare to look him in the eye. The people of Heaven Luo City are all trash. Not a single one of you can fight. How dare you bunch of trash hold the Dragon Blood Martial Gathering? You're all asking for it. Luo Fun roared in anger. The thorns on the ghost thorn vine grew larger and larger, piercing deep into Lei Eru's purple thunder heavenly tiger. Second brother. Lei Dahu and Lei Sanhu howled in pain at the same time. However, they were already severely injured and had no strength to resist. Boom! Just as Luo Fun was about to finish off Lei Eru, a ferocious saber chi suddenly surged forward like a surging wave. The person who suddenly attacked was Qiushan. Even though he was heavily injured, he couldn't just watch Lei Eru die a miserable death. Mere ant, you're courting death. Luo Fun only gave a cold smile in the face of Qiushan's all-out attack. Soon after, a thorny ghost vine flew out like a long snake, directly breaking through the surging waves of air and heavily striking Qiushan's shoulder. Pooh! The sound of flesh being cut rang out. Luo Fun's attack had actually pierced through Qiu Shan's shoulder. Wah! In the next moment, Luo Fun abruptly exerted force and tore off one of Qiu Shan's arms. Blood instantly gushed out, and the air was bright red. Qiu Shan didn't even have the chance to scream before his body was sent flying. After landing on the ground, he immediately fainted. No one knew if he was dead or alive. Uncle Qiu Shan. Jean de Bao's eyes were completely bloodshot. He roared and pounced on Qiu Shan. However, as soon as he moved, a thorny ghost vine appeared and directly grabbed him in the air. Luo Fan directly gave up on Lei Eru and stared at Jean de Bao with a gloomy and cold gaze. Suddenly, she recalled what the latter had just said and immediately felt her blood flow in the opposite direction. The flames of rage in her eyes blazed, and a roar came from her throat. "Fatty, I'll tear you apart." As soon as he finished speaking, another thorny ghost vine appeared in the air. Like a giant hand, it wrapped around Jean de Bao's legs and was really going to tear him apart. This scene caused everyone's eyes to widen into saucers. If Luo Fan used more force, Jean de Bao would definitely be dismembered alive. Many people covered their eyes, not daring to look at this bloody scene. However, in their minds, they had already sketched out the horrible scene of blood splattering everywhere. De Bao. No one knew when Xiaoling had woken up. Seeing the scene in front of her, she cried out in grief. Oomph. Suddenly, Luo Fun's eyes swept over with disdain. He said in a cold voice, "Are you angry? The anger of the weak is destined to be laughable and pathetic. In front of me, you are all trash. You are all ants. I can crush you however I want." This was a world where the strong ruled. The anger of the weak was meaningless. It would only make a joke of the strong. At some point, Jean de Bao suddenly saw Qiuling-er's despairing face. At this moment, his heart was bleeding. He hated himself for not being powerful enough. He hated himself for not being able to protect the one he loved. Die. Sinister laughter rang out. Luo Fan no longer dilly-dallied. The two thorny ghost vines suddenly tightened. In the next moment, with just a little bit of force, Jean de Bao would be torn in half. Die. A cold laughter rang out, like the judgment of the Grim Reaper. At this moment, everyone's hearts were in their throats, because the next moment, the most bloody scene was about to unfold. At this moment, Jean de Bao closed his eyes in despair. At this critical moment, something strange happened. The moment the two thorny ghost vines suddenly tightened, two sharp rays of sword aura whistled through the air. Bang! Bang! Two explosions rang out. Wherever the sword aura passed, the thorny ghost vines were cut in half. Boss! Jean de Bao's eyes suddenly opened. Turning his head slightly, he saw a figure appear in midair. At the most crucial moment, the figure that suddenly appeared was none other than Nie Tian. At this moment, Nie Tian was still holding Wang Erxi in his hand. Seeing this scene from afar, he was completely enraged and threw Wang Erxi down. "Those who touch my brother will be killed without mercy." With an angry roar, Nie Tian's entire body released a monstrous anger. Like a devil, he descended from the sky. Nie Tian's eyes swept across the scene in front of him. To his surprise, he saw Gao Han fainted, Qiuling covered in blood, the three Lei brothers only half dead, and Qiu Shan lost an arm. At this moment, every nerve in Nie Tian's body exploded. Every inch of flesh and every piece of bone in his body suddenly burned. He was like an abnormally active giant volcano, about to erupt in the next moment. With two thorny ghost vines cut in half, Luo Fan couldn't help but frown. He raised his head and saw Nie Tian. Feeling the latter's monstrous anger, he was slightly dazed. Then he smiled and said, "You are Nie." Before he could finish, he was forcefully interrupted by Nie Tian. "I am your ancestor." Nie Tian roared, and the heaven-slash sword appeared in his hand. Chapter 317. Sky-Piercing Sword. The third move of the three intermediate moves of the AO sword tactics was even more terrifying than Proud Sword Flow. In the bloody slaughtered ancient tomb, Nie Tian once used Proud Sword Flow to fight against Chu Shifeng. Although it was slightly inferior, it was still powerful. Of course, Luo Fen was not comparable to Chu Shifeng, but Nie Tian at this time was also incomparable to him at that time. In the bloody slaughtered ancient tomb, Nie Tian only had the strength of the Wanxiang ninth tier, and his sword heart had just been born and was not stable. But now he had the strength of the giant spirit first tier, and after a period of growth, his sword heart had become a bit larger. Although there seemed to be only one tier between the giant spirit first tier and the Wanxiang ninth tier, the gap between them was unimaginable. Moreover, Niet Tian was using the strongest move of the 3 intermediate moves of the AO sword tactics at this time, so the power of this sword was more than several times stronger. If he fought with Chu Shifeng again, the latter would definitely die on the spot. The 100-meter-long sword shadow pressed down like a mountain. Luo Fen could not help but frown slightly when he felt the sharp sword chi in it. He had fought with sword Dao martial artists before and had seen many sword heart martial artists. He had even fought with sword intent martial artists. But the sword light of those swordsmen was not as sharp as Nie Tian's, especially the arrogant breath in the sword chi, which made him feel breathless. Giant Blackwood hand. Feeling the danger, the thorny Blackwood behind Luo Fen suddenly stretched out and condensed into a black thorny hand, like a wall, in front of him. Bang! With a loud noise, the sword shadow bombarded the thorny hand. Suddenly, the sharp sword chi collapsed in all directions, and the rolling airwaves surged. The onlookers hundreds of meters away felt a strong wind whistling past their ears, and their faces felt like being scratched by blades, burning and painful. Boom! The next moment, the huge sword shadow fell. The ground shook violently, and a deep pit of 100 meters appeared. Boom! Walala! The surrounding buildings were affected by the tremors and collapsed with a loud rumble. Although Luo Fen's Blackwood giant hand had blocked Nie Tian's sword, the huge impact force had forced him to retreat again, and he had almost lost his footing. Nie Tian's figure landed, completely ignoring Luo Fen. He immediately arrived at Qiushan's body. Sensing that the latter still had a trace of life force, he hurriedly injected a wave of origin power into the latter's body. "Yes, sir." Qiushan Yu woke up and saw Nie Tian. She spoke with difficulty. "Don't talk." Nie Tian took out a few blood essence pills and foundation pill and gave them to Qiushan. "Boss." Jean de Bao was saved by Nie Tian in time, but he was still in shock. "Are you okay?" Nie Tian's divine sense swept past Jean de Bao, and he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart after confirming that the latter was fine. However, the rage on his face didn't reduce in the slightest, especially when he saw the injuries of Gao Han, Xiao Ling and the 3 lay brothers. His face was filled with uncontrollable anger. "Brother Nie Tian, you're finally here." Roer was so scared. Nie Yuro suddenly ran over, and when she saw Nie Tian, she cried even harder. Her red cheeks were imprinted with 2 lines of hot tears, making people couldn't help but feel pity for her. Ninth sister stepped back first. Nie Tian didn't have time to comfort Nie Yuro. He gestured for Jean de Bao to take the latter away, and then turned to look at Luo Fen, his cold, killing intent almost tangible. At this time, the 3 lay brothers also retreated behind Nie Tian, looking at Luo Fen with deep fear. "Nie Tian City Lord, this person is very powerful. You must be careful." Lei Dahu whispered as he passed by Nie Tian. Nie Tian nodded slightly, and there was no fear in his eyes. Luo Fen steadied himself, looking at Nie Tian with some doubt, some surprise, and even some fear. He couldn't understand how this young man in front of him, who was clearly only at the first level of the giant soul realm, could explode with such great power. When the crowd saw Nie Tian and Luo Fen clashing, they all whispered to each other, "The Nie Tian City Lord is here. There's going to be a good show. I heard that he's a madman who isn't afraid of anyone." Some people say that the 7th Prince of the Sun, Chu Empire, died in his hands. That's nothing. I've also heard about it. A few days ago, the Nie Tian City Lord walked out of the ancient bloody tomb, and now he's completely fine. That's unbelievable. The strength of the Nyetion City Lord is very strange. Against the number one genius of the Nanshan region, Luo Fun, I wonder who's stronger? The crowd whispered, and, at the same time, subconsciously retreated. The power of Nyetion's sword was too great, and it spread hundreds of meters away. At this time, if they didn't retreat far away, they might suffer a calamity. Heaven Luo City Lord, Nyetion. Luo Fun was after all a first-level true essence expert. After confirming Nyetion's strength, he couldn't hide the contempt in his words. Cold, he said, you've come to right time. I was just about to meet you, the organizer of the Dragon Blood Martial Meet. Nie Tianling looked at Luo Fan, a bone-chilling killing intent in his eyes. At this time, two more figures appeared. It was Rui Qinyu and Elderly, Daho. Elderly saw that the three lay brothers were all injured, and their injuries were not light. His face darkened, and he bellowed, "Who did this?" His furious voice was like a clap of thunder, and it shook everyone's eardrums. Master, Lei Dahu's heart was filled with grief, and he glanced at Luo Fun. Elderly immediately understood. His cold eyes looked at the pink-clothed youth not far away, and he bellowed, "Son of a bitch, I will kill you." The three lay brothers were raised by Elderly. Although they were master and disciple, their relationship was like that of father and son. Now that the three brothers were seriously injured, how could Elderly not be angry? Luofen was shocked to feel Elder Li's surging aura. It was obvious that he was a super expert, but he wasn't afraid. Instead, his face revealed a mocking expression. Elderly was a spirit wheel expert. One move was enough to kill Luofen. Elderly, but just as Elderly took a step forward, Nietion's voice sounded in his ears, "I will kill this person." Huh? Elderly was slightly stunned. He looked at Nietion, somewhat puzzled. Although he knew that Nietion was very strong, Luofen was a true elemental level 1 expert. With such strength, even Rui Qinyu might not be a match for him. But when Elder Li's divine sense swept across Nietion's body, the puzzlement on his face immediately turned into shock. He remembered that 3 days ago, Nietion was only at the Wanxiang level 9. Now, he was actually at the giant level 1. He knew that Nietion had been in closed-door training for the past few days. But this closed-door training speed was too fast. It was simply incomprehensible. Nietion City Lord, this person's strength. Elderly glanced at Nietion. Even if the latter was already at the giant level 1, it didn't mean that he could fight with Luo Fun. After all, the latter was at the true elemental level 1. Elderly, I said, "I will kill this person." Nietion didn't wait for Elderly to finish. His cold voice sounded again, revealing an unreasonable confidence and dominance. Elderly wanted to say something, but was stopped by Rui Qinyu. Chapter 3:18. When Luo Fen saw that Nietion actually stopped Elderly from making a move, the corners of his mouth curled up coldly, and he ridiculed, "You a first-level giant spirit trash. Want to kill me?" I've said it before, Nietion's voice was ice-cold, so calm that it made people's hair stand up, but the chilling intent in it was obvious. Those who touch my brother will be killed without mercy. At this time, Nietion already knew that the person in front of him was the number 1 genius of the Southern Mountain region's genius ranking, but he did not care about this. No matter what kind of person Luo Fen was, just based on what he was doing, even if he killed him 100 times, it would not be enough. Nietion found it very strange that an extremely arrogant person like Luo Fen could live until now. Although Luo Fen was a peak existence among the younger generation of the Southern Mountain region, in the entire Southern Mountain region, the first level of true essence was not considered strong. Even Gong Lingi, an ancestor-level character of a second-rate empire, had the strength of a 9th level of true essence. A person like Luo Fen, with his surly and manic personality, must have offended many people. It was not easy for him to live until now. Humph! What a good kill, without mercy. Luo Fen glanced at Nietion, not concealing his contempt, and laughed. "I want to see how a first-level giant spirit trash can kill me." Although Nyetian had repelled Luo Fan with one sword, the latter did not think he had the ability to fight. A first level of true essence, a first-level giant spirit. The difference of an entire realm was not something that could be made up with simple talent. However, Luo Fan also felt a trace of threat. In his heart, he had already made up his mind to kill Nyetian. He was not stupid. He could see that Nyetian was a genius swordsman. If he was allowed to continue growing, he would definitely become a peak existence in the 3,000 small worlds in the future. Thinking of this, Luo Fan looked at Nyetian with eyes that released a cold, killing intent that shrouded over. If one's temperament wasn't firm, they would surely be pressed down by this killing intent to the point of being unable to breathe. Elderly also looked at Nyetian with a slightly nervous expression. He still did not believe that Nyetian had the strength to fight against Luo Fan. The gap between the two of them was an entire realm. No matter how heaven-defying one's talent was, it was impossible to make up for it. He had already made ample preparations. If Nyetian was even slightly weaker, he would immediately make a move. Nyetian, you're courting death. Don't blame me. Luo Fan smiled coldly, and the thorny black tree behind him suddenly bared its fangs and brandished its claws like a huge tentacle monster, releasing a bloody aura. Blackwood spike. In the next moment, as Luo Fan roared, countless ghost thorns vines gathered together and formed a huge sharp awl. Like a rolling drill, it bombarded towards Nyetian. Crash! The moment the blackwood spikes appeared, the sand and stones on the ground were swept up by its momentum. What a strong momentum! Elderly could not help but suck in a breath of cold air when he saw this scene. He could feel that Luo Fan's attack was definitely infused with the true chi of a true element realm martial artist. Its power was strong enough to instantly kill an ordinary true element first layer or even second layer true element realm martial artist. Nyetian was only in the first layer of the giant spirit realm. Could he really block this attack? In this regard, Elderly expressed his doubts. On the side, Rui Qinyu did not have the slightest reaction. She calmly looked at the scene in front of her, not worried about Nyetian at all. The surrounding people felt the billowing waves of qi and sucked in a breath of cold air. Jean DeBeo, Nyeyuro, and the others also turned pale, afraid that something would happen to Nyetian. At this moment, Nyetian's face was calm and fearless. Smelly brat, you're courting death. Seeing that Nyetian did not have any reaction, Luo Fan felt an inexplicable anger. His momentum became even more tyrannical, and a steady stream of yuan energy poured into the blackwood spikes. The terrifying momentum caused the surrounding space to tremble. Facing the terrifying momentum, Nyetian was like a stone in the wind, not moving in the slightest, until the blackwood spikes were less than 5 meters away from him. Yuan energy finally gushed out from his body. On the surface, Nyetian did not move, but at the last moment, the star soul tablet in his body suddenly sensed something. Silver Moon Ghost Killer, Black Tortoise Shadow, Green with 7 Killing Seal. The 3 star souls almost simultaneously rushed out, turning into 3 streams of light that rushed into his Yuan meridian. Boom! In the next moment, a giant tortoise shadow appeared around Nyetian. The tortoise shell was several meters large, and its entire body was more than 30 meters long. It enveloped him, forming the strongest shield. Pump! The blackwood spikes bombarded the black tortoise shadow, as if they had hit a thick iron plate, suddenly stagnating, unable to advance even half a step. Luo Fan felt a huge backlash, force gushing over like tidewater. His brows immediately furrowed, his face revealing great shock and terror. He had never expected that Nyetian would be able to block his direct attack. Unfortunately, this was not the only thing he did not expect. The more shocking surprise was yet to come. Boom! Boom! Almost at the same time, 2 terrifying forces gushed out from Nyetian's body again. In just an instant, the 2 forces, one transformed into a silver crescent moon ghost blade, the other into greenwood thorns. These 2 forces were precisely the 2 star souls, Silver Moon Ghost Killer and Green with 7 Killing Seal. In order to kill Luo Fun, Nietian directly used 3 star souls at the same time. Silver Moon Ghost Killer was incomparably sharp. The aura that suddenly erupted caused people to tremble. Swish! Before Luo Fun could react, the Crescent Moon Ghost Blade slashed down swiftly and violently, directly severing the huge black spikes at the base. Luo Fun did not expect the heart-wrenching pain that came in an instant, and she wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf. The thorny nightmare would elemental spirit sensed danger at this moment and suddenly shrank. I want your life. The corners of Nietian's mouth curled up coldly, and his killing intent soared. The greenwood thorns shot out like spiritual snakes, transforming into 7 sharp blades of green light in the air. Like green lightning, they attacked Luo Fun. Puff, puff, puff. The unexpected scene shocked Luo Fun. Then, he heard the sound of flesh being pierced. Luo Fun took several steps back. His entire body was bleeding profusely. He almost couldn't stand straight and almost fell down. This scene caused everyone to widen their eyes, unable to react at all. Who would have thought that in just an instant, there would be such a shocking reversal of the battle situation? Not only did Nietian easily block Luo Fun's attack, he even directly injured the latter. In just a blink of an eye, the originally arrogant Luo Fun couldn't even stand up. Is this your strength? Nietian didn't give the crowd any time to be shocked. His cold voice suddenly rang out. His figure flashed and directly appeared in front of Luo Fun. He roared in a deep voice, "Today, I will beat you until you can't stand up." Luo Fun looked at Nietian, who stood in front of him like a ferocious beast, and his eyes revealed deep fear. Until this moment, he completely didn't understand how Nietian defeated him. He was a dignified, first-level true element martial artist. His opponent clearly only had the strength of a first-level giant spirit. How could he explode with such terrifying strength? It didn't make sense. Chapter 319. Luo Fun never would have thought that Nietian would just throw a punch at him. This was not the fighting style of a giant spirit realm martial artist. In fact, Luo Fun was also a first-level true essence realm martial artist. Even if he was seriously injured, his physical strength was still very strong. Unfortunately, he was timid at the first moment. Nietian's punch came over. Luo Fun's face turned pale. He could only raise an arm and hastily deal with it. However, Nietian's speed was astonishing, and his fleshly body was terrifyingly strong. At this time, Nietian was at the first-level giant spirit realm. His body had awakened 640,000 stars power. Even if he didn't use any martial skills, his punch could still burst out tens of millions of gene of strength. If he used martial skills, Nietian's strength could already reach hundreds of millions of gene. The strength of 100 million gene was known as the strength of one dragon. According to the legends, the ancient dragon clan was the peak of strength. Therefore, the strength of a dragon represented a huge strength of 100 million gene. This was already enough to smash a mountain with one punch. Enraged, Nietian's star power burst forth from within him. Even the air buzzed as he punched out with his sharp fists. Bang! With a muffled sound, Luo Fun felt a sudden pain in her arm. Her body was directly sent flying. With a bang, she flew out like an arrow and heavily smashed into a broken wall 100 meters away, directly smashing the wall into pieces. My hand. As a first-level true essence realm martial artist, Luo Fun's physical body was very strong. After taking a punch from Nietian, he actually didn't die. Instead, he crawled up from the ground. With a ghostly howl, he crazily spat out a mouthful of blood. Very good. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to take it. Nietian fiercely smiled. The expression on his face was ferocious, causing people to shudder. He took a big step forward and directly came in front of Luo Fun. Nietian, you... Once again, Luo Fun tried to take something out with his half-broken arm, but was interrupted by Nietian. Nietian suddenly took a step forward, grabbed Luo Fun's collar, lifted him up, swung his arm, and threw a punch. Bang! A solid punch landed on Luo Fun's face. Luo Fun only felt his vision go black. Several teeth flew out along with blood beads, and his whole body was smashed to the ground. Bang! With a loud sound, a deep pit appeared on the ground. Don't kill me. At this moment, Luo Fin was completely in despair. The light in his eyes dissipated bit by bit, and his pitiful voice rang out, but he was unable to finish his words. An ominous glint appeared in Nietian's eyes. With a low roar, he raised one of his legs high up and heavily stomped down on Luo Fin's chest. Like a boulder falling to the ground, Nietian's foot heavily landed on Luo Fin's chest. The entire ground shook, and a layer of dust rose up. Luo Fin howled like a pig being slaughtered, and the crisp sound of bones breaking came from his body. Seeing this scene, everyone was completely stunned. Countless pale faces couldn't stop sucking in cold air, not knowing how to describe their feelings at this moment. Was this still a battle between a true element realm martial artist and a giant spirit realm martial artist? This was completely a street fight. Even at this moment, everyone still couldn't understand how Luo Fin, who was at the first level of true element realm, lost to Nietian. And he lost so thoroughly, so cleanly, and so without any hesitation. What they didn't know was that in order to defeat Luo Fin in the simplest way, Nietian simultaneously used 3 rank 2-star souls. The reason why he was able to defeat Luo Fin so easily and thoroughly, besides the terrifying power of the rank 2-star souls, was that Luo Fin had underestimated his opponent. Luo Fin took the initiative to attack. He didn't expect that Nietian could actually block his attack, and even more so, he didn't expect that Nietian could not only block his attack, but also counterattack at the first instance. Moreover, it was a swift and fierce counterattack that he couldn't react to. Luo Fin didn't react at the first instance, so he didn't use the true element chi in his body to defend. By the time he wanted to defend, it was already too late. Nietian had thoroughly injured him, not giving him the slightest chance to counterattack. One move to defeat the enemy, leaving no room for maneuver. This was Nietian's fighting style. He wasn't like Luo Fin, a psychopath who liked to slowly torture his opponent. Nietian's rule was, as long as you give me half a chance, I will absolutely beat you until you are unable to retaliate. At this time, even Old Li, who was constantly nervous at the side, waiting to make a move at the crucial moment, was completely petrified. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he absolutely couldn't believe that a first-level giant spirit martial artist could defeat a first-level true element martial artist just like that. Dog abuse. Nietian was completely dog abuse here. Old Li's strength was far above Nietian's, but he could not understand how Nietian won. He didn't even know where the power that erupted from Nietian's body came from. Nietian didn't even use his giant spirit true body, so how could he easily defeat Luo Fin? Old Li already completely couldn't understand. But the calm Rui Qinyu beside him, her brows furrowed and loosened and furrowed, as though she was thinking about something. Rui Qinyu had the 9-color pupils, and her perceptive ability far surpassed ordinary martial artists. Even high-level pill masters were unable to compare to her. And just when Nietian had just used his 3rd-star soul, she seemed to sense that Nietian's body actually had 10 elemental meridians. 10 elemental meridians. It was indeed 10 elemental meridians. But how was this possible? Martial artists only had 9 elemental meridians. This was common knowledge. Even ordinary people, or 3-year-old children, knew this. Rui Qinyu believed in her own intuition. She firmly believed that Nietian's physique was different from ordinary people, and she could faintly sense that within Nietian's 10th elemental meridian, there was an abnormally large amount of power. That was an enormous and unfathomable power, giving people an indescribable feeling of trembling. If this kind of power was released, it was enough to destroy the heavens and reverse the universe. Jean de Bayo, Qiu Shan, Tang Yuyu, Nie Yuro, and the rest were even more dumbfounded. Especially the first 3, they simply couldn't imagine how Nietian did it. Even with Qiu Shan's giant soul rank 5 strength, He couldn't withstand a single strike from Luo Fun. Nietian had just advanced to Giant Soul Rank 1, but he was actually able to completely suppress Luo Fun. All of this was too inconceivable. Moreover, Nietian only went into seclusion for 3 days and directly advanced to Giant Soul Rank. This kind of cultivation speed was unparalleled, enough to make any genius blush with shame. Nietian didn't care about the crowd's shock. The foot that was stepping on Luo Fun's chest suddenly exerted force, like a giant boulder, causing the latter to be unable to breathe, unable to make a single sound. "You shouldn't have provoked me." A cold light shot out from Nietian's eyes, his expression so gloomy that it was suffocating, his entire body exuding terrifying killing intent. His voice wasn't loud, but that gloomy aura made Luofen fall into complete despair. You can't kill me?" Luofen was beaten half to death by Nietian. She clenched her teeth, unable to breathe, and felt as if her internal organs were about to explode. She endured the excruciating pain and squeezed out a few words from the corner of her mouth. "I can't." Nietian sneered, a hint of contempt flashing across his eyes as he suddenly lifted his foot. Just as Nietian's foot was about to land, a strange change suddenly occurred. "Stop!" At the critical moment, a roar suddenly sounded out from afar. Nietian raised his head, looking towards the source of the voice. What entered his eyes was a furious old man, and beside this old man was a very familiar figure, Gu Yi.